Yeah.
Wow.
We're back.
We're back, baby.
Yes.
Back again.
Vacation was short and
I
sweet.
was going to say.
Tell a friend.
Such a short vacation.
We didn't even take a vacation.
It almost
Like-
hurts me to come back. But I'm glad we're back.
Last Tuesday trying to revamp our upcoming show. We got asked back for a few more shows.
Did you say
so
ass backward?
asked back.
Asked.
Asked back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Word.
It was more
Asked
like, are you
back.
guys
Are
coming
you
back?
guys coming back?
Yeah, I know. I had some people reach out and like,
You guys done?
you
guys
guys
were
are
dead
finished
wrong.
because everything went haywire. Not even close,
No.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
We are excited to be
We've
back.
had to hire Secret Service
I
with the
know.
stuff we're
It's
going
like-
to bring.
Yeah.
You guys said it was going to end up in the Supreme Court, and I didn't believe you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry. Welcome to Can We Three Agree? That is the name of the show. I'm Dustin Bass. That is Brandon Bass. That's Stephen McDonald over here. And, well, should we even bring him up?
No.
Stephen Bass? No, we're not going
I'll
to.
leave him out of it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a killer show. So we took last week off, and the week before that was election night. So we did a live show.
For 4.5 hours.
That was
hours.
a.
I was freaking dead.
I was tired,
man.
My brain hurt.
Yeah.
I was like,
I hadn't eaten so much cotton in my life.
it's like on me, myself, and Irene.
Oh man, that was a long night. Yeah.
It's so crazy.
I don't know how people do it. That was rough.
That was a
mean-
rough one.
Can you imagine how bad your breath would stink after like doing like a 6-hour show?
Popping mints like.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I was gonna reference somebody who had cotton mouth all the time. Be like, hey,
Yeah.
hey,
Clear it up.
hey.
Clear it up.
All right, so we got a lot to cover. So we are not going to do a Q&A tonight, but that doesn't mean don't keep your Q&A or questions coming because we do want to address them. But tonight we've got a lot to go over. We want to get right into it, and some of this is like the video stuff. We're going to somewhat replay and re-emphasize some of this stuff. Because unfortunately there are a lot of people, and it's not really their fault to an extent, that think that the election's over.
Right.
They've been told by the mass media,
Yeah,
this
media's
election's
making-
over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they called it Saturday. Yeah, Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
Like it's all over. It's
Yeah.
all over. It reminds me of the Anchorman, on Anchorman when Ed Harkin comes in and he's like, all right, everybody. And he's like, the other guy's like, all right, go home, everyone. He's like, no. They just keep going. That's what it reminds me of. So it's
Yeah.
absolutely bizarre.
The state of our country right now.
The state of our country,
Yeah. The state of politics.
politics and media.
Yeah.
Media is a freaking joke. I can't believe it. It's a freaking joke, and we could go off on that, but let's
Yeah,
get
but I mean, I think bringing that up, I think your buddy Joshua Phillip did I don't know if you watched it or not, but did a Q&A and all that, and I caught a little bit of it, and he referenced a lot of that destabilization and normalization and
Yeah.
the Bolsheviks and
Yep.
and how Lenin, how they went about purchasing all of the news and media, the papers, like
It's the same game
it is
plan.
the
same
same
ex-
exact game
the
plan.
same game plan that's been
and
used
we were
so
warned
many
of this
times.
for
Yeah.
40, 50, 60 years. Like this is just
That's why we understand what we're looking at and what we're watching and what we're trying to warn people about.
the scary thing is like, and we joke around like Secret Service like walking out, and all of a sudden all of us just get dropped right on our forehead. But
Yeah.
But this is what happens in
we
those
went
kind of
into
regimes.
Germany. Yeah, we went into Germany. We
Yes.
ended up seeing what they were doing, and we brought it back here, and we started using a lot of their anyway
Because
so-
it worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sad to say.
And we practiced all that stuff too,
Yeah.
like in other countries. Deconstruction,
Correct.
destabilizing other countries.
Yeah. We're
And
very
to
good
an
at
extent,
that.
like you can say, well, they had a good reason because the communists were doing it.
Yeah.
So it was sort of this. It was the Cold War.
Yeah.
You know, it was like you weren't dropping bombs, but you were
Correct.
trying to undermine regimes that were being put into power.
Yeah.
And the communists were doing that to us.
yeah.
So, pretty wild stuff. But yes, the media, ladies and gentlemen, like we've gotten to the point where you really can't.
Well, I think-
you can't trust much of what is being said. You have to dig.
It was was funny watching the fallout of Fox News and Fox when we all knew it was like, man, Fox was bought out. I mean, Murdoch, Soros. I mean, they've been bought out a long time. And then finally everybody woke up that night of like, oh, fuck, I can't believe Fox. And they're like, what do you mean you can't believe Fox? They've been bought out for years. You're too blinded to see.
From the beginning.
From the
Rupert
beginning,
Murdoch
they're just like,
founder.
hey, correct. Like, they were giving millions of dollars to the Biden campaign. Like, what do you mean you just caught up to this? People, we're here to wake you up and help you come to terms with what's happening in the real reality. That's what this show is going to do.
Yeah. So, all right. We're going to start off with some of the dream videos. We want to just do a bit of a deep dive into some of this stuff.
Yep.
We're going to go to everyone's favorite dreamer, the Dana.
Mr. Coverstone.
Dana! Anybody get that?
Not to be confused with
Headlines
Brownstone.
that read, Trump victory challenged everywhere. It was on digital marquees like in New York, Times
So-
Square, places like that.
I mean, obviously that's coming. That's not something that's happened. We don't see that on any. I mean, we were just talking about it. What outlets do you see Trump's attorneys and representatives on? You see them on a couple of shows, maybe on Fox, and then Newsmax. And then, like, you don't see it anywhere. They're still pushing and promoting the office of president-elect.
I've been thinking,
The
like,
sign behind Biden. Like, when have you ever seen a president-elect sign?
Yeah. I was thinking, what is the most powerful office in the world? The office of the
president-elect.
president-elect. Yeah. All the power in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to bring that out. Like,
Means
when he's
absolutely
saying
nothing.
Yeah. So this is interesting that he's like, it keeps getting pushed out.
And I saw people screaming and getting violent over the election results to the point people were firing weapons just randomly into the air, into the sky. People were angry and people were mad.
Yeah.
I mean,
And like I said, I think this is to come. I don't think this is.
Yeah.
I mean,
That
there's
hasn't-
nothing.
that hasn't
There's
really
nothing to
happened yet.
really get upset about right now. I mean, they got
Correct.
mad about a couple of Trump supporters in Washington,
Yeah.
or a million.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but they got a little upset about that. But
yeah.
it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
We don't see that, and that's what I was saying. Is I think this gets challenged no matter what, whether Biden won or
Yeah.
Trump won. It
Of
was going to
course.
get challenged.
It was going to end up where it ends
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
Well, Hillary had made that comment to Biden even long before the election. Do not concede whatever you do.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
great
no,
advice.
I think Trump took it, didn't he?
I saw a
Yeah.
person with a sign and it said, the obvious winner is not so obvious, like a placard, like, the world's about to end, God is coming, get ready to, whatever, one of those signs.
Now that was, we had talked about that early on. It's like the obvious winner is not so obvious.
Right.
Right.
And we've got a couple of.
Yeah, I want to pull some of this stuff up. You've got just a couple of these things. It's very interesting that it's verbatim.
Yeah.
Right.
Apparent winner.
Apparent winner.
We've got another one from the Daily Cable. Apparent winner. Not so apparent.
Yeah,
Those
I mean,
are some.
and these are
sweet
just
shades.
ones for the states that we all know that are going to be either recounted or, being taken up.
And here's
to
another one from NBC, CNBC. Yes, I want to continue. Unbelievable. What is this? Continue to cite? What's going on? All right, here we
There
are.
we go.
Apparent winner over Trump in Georgia. So the first Democrat to take the state since 1972.
1992.
So yeah, all this stuff it's being pushed hard.
Yeah.
Hey, it's all over. You can go to bed now. They were doing that at the beginning during the freaking election. Remember?
Yeah.
Well, most people don't even understand that the media doesn't declare the election.
That's
I mean,
that's what we were
that's
bringing
a
up.
huge
It's like
problem right now that people don't even know that. the
people
media-
wake up the next morning saying, "Oh, well, so and so won the election,"
Yeah.
and it's like, well, how do you know? Well, we watched the election last night.
Yeah.
Well, when we were joking about it in the live, Facebook, where you got less than 1% in, and they're calling the
Oh,
state.
that's why
Virginia
watching
was
Virginia that
Biden's-
night, and we refused to put it on the board.
Yeah.
Because of the numbers. I mean, it just.
I still haven't put it on the board.
But it was 1% in, and Trump was up like 600,000 votes or some. And you're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, like, what do you like?
And
what
I
do
think
you know that we don't know?
Yeah, Arizona, like it called it like 14% or
Yeah.
something like that, and it's just like
Battleground states called it 14% was,
Yeah.
yeah, that was fishy.
Yeah, and
and at
everybody
no point
can
in
go.
time,
Yeah, go ahead.
At no point in time was it started out with Biden up like 302 to something.
Yeah.
Like it stayed at it made it to they made sure that Biden was never under,
Behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
never given even the semblance of he could lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can go and look at New York, and I think I brought this up to you guys the other day, where in 2016, Hillary won that one by like 2.2 million votes.
Yeah.
And Trump reduced it to, I think he ended up losing by 800. So how did he pick up 1.3 million votes in a state like that?
blue state.
That's what, to me, that screamed the loudest, like what in the world just took place there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't pick up 1.3 million votes out of 2.2.
Yeah.
Like, unless there's something really going on.
And that's why I still stand by what I said on our history podcast, that I think Trump was going to win. I think we were going to retain the Senate. When I say we Republicans. And then I thought, I still think that the House will go to the Republicans.
Well, I think they
'Cause I
flipped,
a lot
what,
of this
11
stuff-
so far?
Yeah,
11, 12?
Yeah, because they've flipped. I can't remember. Like the last I saw was
official
7,
count was-
and the Democrats had lost 7.
Yeah.
But that was a few days ago, so it could be.
I saw that of the seats that were supposedly up for grabs, and they were leaning a little more Republican. 27 out of 27, the Republicans held on. Of the 32 that were kind of in the same situation,
Yeah.
could be tossed, but leaning more Democratic, the Republicans actually took 8 of those 32.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
mathematically, it tells you this was a complete red wave, if there is such a thing. But all of a sudden,
Well, you had all those ballots show up that were only,
Only Biden.
only presidential votes
Exactly.
only.
right.
It's like 95,000 to 800.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I want to say Pennsylvania, but it may not have been Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It may have been another state. But they're all freaking jacked up, anyways.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Apparent winner, not so apparent, as Coverstone said. Here's what he says now.
He said the obvious winner is not so obvious. And he held his head in shame. But the crowd was in a frenzy of hatred. They were even hitting each other with their signs and their banners and their wrath.
So you wanted to play this quick video.
Headlines.
This kind of gives you a little idea of what I think is going to end up taking place.
So this is, I think I put that. No, I don't know if I did put that in there. I believe it's this one.
Yeah.
Dominion denies allegations
This
that
one?
its
that's
machines
not it.
changed votes
Okay.
from.
But,
But that's
It
At
may
some
have
point-
it in there.
yeah.
I saw headlines that read, Trump victory challenged everywhere.
Would you
Those
start all the
digital
way over?
marquees, like in New York, Times
I?
Square,
Yeah.
places like that.
good one.
Well, look,
We need
guys,
to get a technical person for
I
this.
know.
We need a producer.
We
Well,
did.
here's the thing, and I'm gonna, in my defense, I was sent.
And Kamala Harris was driving
There
that.
you go.
Shut up, Dana. Way off, mother.
In
In
your
my
defense.
defense,
Yeah.
in my defense, I was sent these timestamps, which I completely am very appreciative of.
Yes.
But there was one thrown in there.
Did you like how we
that
did
was
this
a,
week?
a little off, and I was like, wait a minute, is that? And then I couldn't find it, so forget it. And you know what? Honestly, I can't even remember what all was in there, because my mind is
Just
blown.
gonna make it up as we go.
It's a shame. I'm ashamed of myself.
Yeah.
As I should be.
Headlines declared that rebuilding would take time and trust would take even longer, and government could not do it in a timely fashion. And that's when I saw a Treasury official who's in the Treasury Department right now wink, like almost as if he was looking at a camera on TV. Big smile, open mouth, wink with right eye, and held it closed, and just kind of, almost like a sarcastic type thing.
So when he says, I think we need to probably clarify about dreams in general. I spent, so John Paul Jackson, he was like, that was his ministry, was dream interpretations. And he had a 6-part disc. And on my road trips, I listened to that a number of times, so I could kind of get an idea of how to interpret dreams. And obviously, for the most part, people need to realize that a lot of this is not literal. It's a figurative way of looking at something. So a lot of times, even now, firing guns in the air could mean a lot of things, right? Challenging the Trump, I think we all see in the news and stuff like that. But there's other things like it'll take time to build back. I think is that the trust in the system? Is that the trust in the electoral system? Like, what is that? What is he
it's
meaning?
the Treasury Department speaking right there too. So, I mean, you're
well,
talking
he's
about
talking about funding and building back. Like, what do you think that is?
I mean, seeing that it's a Treasury Department spokesperson that he's watching wink at him. Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking about pretty much the country and I mean, you think about the financial hit we've already taken this year because of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
If this thing blows up like we think it's going to blow up, after this swing,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have a lot more, possibly the dollar, move. So you're talking about the whole system as a whole.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's looking at is the whole system is going to take a lot of trust to come back.
Yeah, and I think that either way, I think that we were just joking around about Trudeau and this great reset that everyone's talking about, including Biden.
Yeah.
I put a thing out about build back
Build
better.
back better. Yeah.
And it's like, dude, this dude pulled from the UN
Yeah.
in 2009 and used that as his running slogan, build back better. That ought to tell you everything that's funding and backing this group is the UN. It's you guys talk about it all the time, the globalists.
Yep.
Understanding, that would definitely help. I think, I don't know. I hope it's not. I mean, everything says it's going to be the dollar.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we're going to take a
I mean-
financial hit. I think there's going to be retaliation. If Trump does win, I think the rest of the world is going to try to retaliate in some way. I think the shutdowns they're going to really push to shut everything down.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to fight really hard for that not to happen again.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
That's why I said our system is just basically at war with the world system right now.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. And if Biden wins, the system really, I mean,
It may be
may be
over.
over.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about that before. I mean, we really felt like, if you go back to some of our earlier shows, we've said this before, like, we felt like this is probably our last true election where we get to determine the outcome.
Yeah.
And that's a sad place to be, but people, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly where we're at.
and sadly, I don't even think we're getting to
No.
decide the outcome because
No.
of what's
You're
going
right.
on. what's
Correct.
taking
I mean,
place.
like, we're already there.
Who knows? I mean, maybe even the last few elections haven't been ours.
Yeah.
Who knows how long it's been that we haven't had control over the elections?
Yeah.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's
Yeah.
why
So,
Hillary
to an
didn't know
extent-
how she lost.
To an
I mean, she's like, how do you lose a rigged election?
But to your
Yeah.
point, saying that this may be the last election, this may be the first. The next one may be the first election that we actually will have.
Yeah.
That is trustworthy if everything gets cleaned up. That's one of the problems that's been going on for so long, is that there's been corruption, there's been fraud for so long, and all they do is pinpoint these little idiots who get
Yeah.
caught red-handed,
But they're
or the ones that
patsies.
they want to
Yeah.
get
Exactly
caught.
right.
That's what I'm
They're
saying.
patsies. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No one on the Republican side or the Democrat side has ever wanted to clean it up. The FBI, the CIA, or
They
the
don't
FBI,
wanna touch it.
they don't freaking care.
They don't wanna touch
They
it.
don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to mess with it. They're
Yeah, it's like the two
I don't want to
guys
get a bullet in my head.
in California that just got caught, and they're responsible for what?
8,000.
8 to 10,
Yeah.
8 to 10,000.
Yep.
Just these two people. Now, who supplied them with all that info?
Yeah.
That was something I wanted to bring up too. I'm
Uh-oh.
sorry.
Here we go.
Everybody can look into it, right? So if you want to Google it, Center for Tech and Civic Life, right? It's this group that supposedly they work to make sure we have fair and free elections and stuff like that. On average, per year, they are donated roughly $700,000 to work, right?
Yeah.
Zuckerberg and his wife donated $350 million to them to go and make sure that there's a
Yeah.
free and fair election.
better
Now,
make sure.
the
You know
funny
what
thing
you-
is
yeah.
look at it because and I was just telling Dick before you guys got here, is like $20 million of that went to the city of Pennsylvania, which we'll probably at some point
Talk about
bring up.
Yep.
Eventually.
Yep.
And then Georgia was another one, and I want to say there was another, and these are just counties, a county in Georgia and a county in Michigan, $20 million that these people alone just funded.
Yeah.
Wayne County,
Doing what?
Fulton County.
Yeah.
Wouldn't doubt it.
That's exactly
Follow
right.
the
I
money.
think Wayne County was the other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
what,
know.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we say. Follow the money. It's always about the money.
Always about the money. And
Yeah.
speaking of the money, I think when it's the Treasury Department representative winking and saying
Yeah.
it's going to take some time, I think it's just an obvious look. We're headed to a financial economic disaster.
Correct.
Like, you can't spend this many trillions of dollars,
No.
and not build up your GDP and lose in your GDP.
I agree.
And,
At some
and
point, it
not
catches
hit
up
a
with you.
massive recession or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
a depression. So who the hell knows what's going to happen
Yep.
in the coming year? But
did you guys see the, and somebody sent me, thank you, the most recent thing that they found concerning a new planet? It's called Hell. Like,
Oh, yeah. The
you've
one
seen
that's,
that?
yeah, I've seen
Okay,
that.
it's actually raining.
yeah,
Freaking
raining fire and
down and stuff
brimstone. Yes.
Event Horizon.
Yes.
Yes.
At least we had the same thought.
I
Like,
mentioned that the other night.
yes, we did.
Okay. Anyways,
Yeah.
I just heard you say
No,
Hell.
you're
I
right.
wanted
I mean,
to bring
that was great.
Yeah.
And
We'll put that out.
Yeah.
possibly one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah. Love it. It's one of my favorites.
I hate it.
And then I saw a Conestoga wagon. Think Little House on the Prairie. And Kamala Harris was driving that wagon.
Just for
was led by two
clarity, Conestoga wagon, and just so you know, I research everything, so I went and looked back. Just this reference here alone, the Conestoga wagon was created in Lancaster County in Pennsylvania. So, just as a
For what it's worth.
just for what it's worth, you know.
And Joe Biden was not sitting with Kamala Harris. Joe Biden was riding on one of the mules on the left, on the far left, so to speak. And her side.
Think about it.
mechanical
Like, I mean,
box.
he's
Yeah.
telling you
Like he was
that
sitting
he's going to ride
Yep.
the far left agenda. Like, that tells you right there. And who's the one actually driving?
Harris.
Exactly. She's the one, and he doesn't even.
And if
know.
you go back to a lot of Biden's speeches in his campaigns, I mean, he flat out mentions and says that he is Harris's running mate. And then
Right.
he goes and says, "Oh, you think I'm kidding?" Like, there's multiple times he said that. Like, they weren't even hiding all of this.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But people are like, "Oh, no, that's not the way." Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, they're putting it so far out in front of you now, it's not even funny. They're
Yeah, it's
just daring you to.
depopulation.
Yeah.
If you say it enough times, people just
Say
assume that-
normalization.
Yeah.
You know, you get the same words over
Yeah.
and over.
Yeah.
Exactly. I used to push the hair down on my legs.
I'm going to vote for that guy.
You know, or it's cartoons where they push down and it blows up. It was in an upright position though, like the trigger. And
Did
then
he
the
already
winds
say
are blowing
that
the
the
wagon
cases? Did he already bring that up? No. Okay.
covering back and revealed several cases of like what I would consider to be Civil War type cases of dynamite. That era, the late 1800s, 1860s.
See, when I hear that, like when I hear cases of dynamite, like in all honesty, I'm thinking of court cases.
Yeah.
Like when I hear that, this stuff is going
Yeah.
to explode.
Well, how many cases did I send you that day that they were looking at? It's been a few months ago that all these indictments. I mean, there was something like 10,000 indictments that haven't been opened yet, and I think I'd sent it to you because you deal more with the government and all of that stuff. I'd have to go back and find it again,
Yeah.
but it was.
What are they waiting on to see how this all turns out? Or
That was
what's the
what I was
holdup?
really putting on Dustin. I think back then was like, man, can you look into this because I can't really find anything past these points. But it was a lot of indictments that were handed down all at the same time, and it was just pages and pages of indictments.
Wow.
So and they're just sitting there.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I mean, I think that
Everything
there's,
sits.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
It-
I think
it's
that
just
what
sitting there.
she's doing is she's carrying these things that are meant to help or hurt Trump or destroy Trump. It's meant to hurt her. I mean, him, but I think ultimately
Yeah.
these cases end up hurting her.
Like, and when I say everything sits, you had the Biden laptop sitting in the FBI since last year,
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah.
The laptop that was
Anthony Werner's
Weiner.
it's still sitting there.
Don't say Werner.
Wiener.
Wiener.
Anthony Weiner's laptop. Not touching it.
Yeah.
Not touching the Wiener. Okay. And
That's why. I know you.
exactly. Like, and you've got, the General Flynn case.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
keeps going back and forth, and Judge Sullivan, who I think is going to eat it here pretty soon. He's just dragging his feet on this case. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of explosive cases.
Yeah.
That I think is going to.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, so that's a good point.
And most of it was in cases, stamped dynamite. There were some loose ones in an open wicker basket, which didn't fit the timeline, but it was there.
And that,
Harris
to me,
began to
that the wicker basket in Zechariah, there's a, and most people don't like that. It's a reference that this angel comes and he opens the basket, right, and he looks in. It's called an ephah or whatever, right, ephah or whatever. And he looks in there, and there's a woman in there, and the angel says, "This is wickedness," right? And I've always used that as a good one-liner.
Good way to shut someone up.
But when I see this, it's things that are a wicker basket. Things have to be woven together to create something to hold this together and hold this. He says it's loose pieces of dynamite. Yeah. So when you're hearing that, that's just the way I look at it, is like, even they're trying to just tie things together and hopefully it'll hold it and be able to carry it.
Yeah.
And with the whip, and she was hitting Joe Biden as well, but Biden had no idea he was being whipped. He was not aware of what was happening.
Of course.
That's
and
literal.
The fuel started moving and picking up speed. They were headed towards a target. And this is where I saw Hillary Clinton was standing behind President Trump. President Trump was on his knees. And she was wearing like a Wilma Flintstone dress.
That also is
There
literal.
were patches where it had not been finished yet. It wasn't seamed up. It wasn't sealed up. The collar wasn't on. There were like little strings just hanging all over the place. It was almost, it wasn't finished. It wasn't actually ready to be worn, I guess, for prime time or what she was doing. It was very ugly, and she had this gaudy ring on her index finger. It looked like it had blood on it. She had the skeleton key hanging from her neck, and it was dangling. And she had basically.
I mean, do you guys want to touch on these things?
I don't even
what
wanna
they
touch
represent.
I don't want to get killed.
So yeah, well, I mean,
Clinton
I will
side.
say something about the ring. I mean, it looking into the child sex trafficking stuff for so many years, even before it became popular to look into, that a lot of the things that you found out.
Don't Google blood ring is what you're
Correct,
saying. Yeah.
because it's a real thing.
Yes.
And these people share a blood ring throughout this cult. And I mean, you can find a lot of people, you could find a lot of people wearing them. They don't so much anymore, public's caught on. But 10 years ago, we were looking into a lot of that stuff, and you could find these things. And,
Right.
Hillary and Oprah and all these people were wearing them out in the open back then. And it's a sad state that's where we're at. But when he said, the ring with the blood on it, the sex trafficking, the child sex trafficking stuff, I mean, that's what comes to my mind, because that's what that represented.
Yeah, and the skeleton key, I mean, that kind of speaks for itself, but if you go and research that, it's a key that's supposed to give you access to basically
Whatever door.
It's created so that it can open many, many locks.
Yeah.
And so it's an ancient thing where, a lot of your witchcraft and stuff like that have worn these and used these as a token to be able to do certain things. And like they say, they try to create it as luck or good luck. But
Kim Clement talks about, putting a witch in the White House, referencing Hillary back in one of his dreams.
Right.
And so again, when I heard the skeleton key, I kind of went back the same way you did with the witchcraft.
yeah,
was because that was also in Kim Clement's dream, and it kind of tied itself together in that imagery.
And it lets you know that Hillary's very involved in this.
Oh, of course.
You know, people
Yeah.
kind of play it off that she's like some puppet. And I mean,
No, she's not a puppet.
I think she's embodied something, or something's
Yeah.
embodied her.
Well, she's admitted about talking with spirits. I mean, I think
Sure.
what was it? Her husband.
Eleanor.
Correct.
Roosevelt,
Eleanor. Yeah. I mean,
Eleanor
he's
Rigsby?
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt.
Okay.
But even Bill's talked to the public about, oh yeah, she was just talking to Eleanor today and,
Yeah.
and communing with her. They don't hide this stuff. It's hard to
Right.
find. People are like, where do you find all this information? I'm like, you have to search for it, but it's there. They will tell you exactly what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. Pride does that. Pride can't be quiet. Pride
Yeah,
can't.
well,
they
they-
have
they-
to show you what they're doing, and it's
Well, also too, I heard one of them say there's an adrenaline rush of not being caught.
that's
So
probably true too.
Yeah, he said, look, it's an adrenaline rush because you're living exactly on the edge, and
Yeah.
you're kind of daring people to come after you.
Well,
and-
you're proving too that you're all powerful.
Yep.
Like, hey,
It's a
I'm
godlike
too-
attitude.
Yeah.
Yep.
And well, we'll get to it, but I think that they really screwed themselves with this one because they just thought that they could get away. They made it so obvious.
Trump was the fly in the ointment.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's why we're here.
that's right.
Yeah.
He was on his knees, and she had a Roman gladius knife to the left side. It was the left side of his throat, holding his head back like that. And the skeleton key was dangling in front of his face. And the skeleton key looked like it had blood and black mold all over it. And where it had leaned down, where it was banging against the front of her shirt, it looked like it left like a Nazi symbol. The stormtroopers, the Nazi SS had almost like the lightning signal, the lightning strike, the double pane of lightning. That's what it looked like on the front of her shirt.
And
Yeah.
we need.
The Nazis were into all of
The
people think
occult.
of Raiders
Yeah.
of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
To an extent,
Yes.
they were really into the deep occult.
They were.
really felt that the demonic powers could really give them
Yeah.
the power to do certain things.
Yeah, and what's sad is, after World War II, what was the one thing that America did? We went and got all of their scientists, including the occultist scientists, and brought them over here, and they went to work directly for the CIA.
Yeah.
So we just basically transferred all of that knowledge back over to here, and brought that occultist kind of attitude and research
Yeah.
right here into our country.
And it was done because Alan and I have talked about that on the show. We dedicated a show to Operation Paperclip.
Yeah.
And so the Soviets were taking off with all of those scientists.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things like, well, do we let them have all of these rocket scientists
do
and
we step
everything,
in and-
or do we sort of bring them in, keep them under lock and key,
Yeah.
watch everything that they're doing?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things like you make the right decision, but at the same time you pay the price for bringing that wickedness in.
Yeah.
Because I was like, because we had that conversation. I go, well, there was a third option.
There was.
You kill all those people.
Yeah.
You lose out on all that information, yes.
But
And
you deal with it.
fall
You deal with it
behind.
one time.
Yeah, you fall behind
Yeah.
in the space race, right? And some other races.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say other races is a good way to put
Yeah.
it, because they were creating different types of races, and a lot of people don't want to get involved in that type of stuff. But it was, people were giving birth to things that would blow people's minds.
Yeah.
But someone made a reference the other day about the chimera. And so I started going and trying to research and look into this, and I was like, what the heck, man? So like on a very, very tangible way where people can kind of comprehend, there was and this is rare, very rare, but this is what happens when you start dealing with genetics and
Well,
DNA.
they were
and
gene
you-
splicing.
Yes. So there was a woman,
Yeah, it's very rare, just like election fraud.
that's
Baseless.
almost non-existent.
Baseless.
Baseless.
The woman was tested, and they did all kinds of things, and they realized within her body she was made up of two DNAs, meaning that the best way that they could describe it was she was her own twin. And they go, well, how did you know that this was a issue or whatever? She goes, well, I started growing 2 rows of teeth, right? So I had some teeth pulled out.
Just 32.
She goes, my ears, like when I had to get my ears pierced, it had to be 14 karat gold, or otherwise I'd have really bad reactions. She goes, but my belly button, I got that pierced, and I can have anything in there. Ants can bite my legs, and one leg will be just a little bite like this. On the other leg, it'll swell up to where you can see that I'm extremely allergic. So the doctor, the best way he could explain it was, if this woman were to have a child, there's a very good chance that
I'm waiting for this one.
there's a very good chance that she's actually the aunt and not the mother.
Welcome to the
So
Can
that's
We
what I'm
Agree
saying.
show.
Like, it's just some crazy stuff out there.
Oh,
that
dude, the experiments they were running on people were they should have burned a lot of those people at the stake.
Imagine, if you will, a world.
I mean, this is back in the 40s.
God.
I mean, this is a long time ago.
I think that's where the guy got the idea.
Yep.
In Twilight
Yeah.
Zone.
Yeah, it was.
How freaking original.
yeah.
I'm not saying she's a Nazi. I'm just saying
Yeah, you
that
are.
symbol was on her shirt, and it was like just tainted, stained, black, red, ugly, gaudy. And the wagon starts picking up speed, and they're headed towards this. Hillary Clinton's holding Donald Trump, and Hillary's face was giddy. But next to her leg, there was like an animal trap. A large, like a bear trap. And suddenly Trump
Russia?
grabs the key and he pulls it down like this. Well, he grabbed it with his left hand. When she came down, he brought his right hand up and hit her in the face, in the chin. When she did that, she dropped the knife and she stepped back.
Don't you
and
think
the president
that-
began to ramp.
Don't you think even within that, the way he's referencing that, right? Like, he grabs the skeleton key. So the very thing that she thinks she has
Control.
access and control
Yeah.
over, and that's going to open up, he uses it, and then he fights back. And obviously, I don't know how Dana thinks or when he's writing this stuff down, but the right hand is power, authority, and stuff like that. So when he uses his right hand to hit her in the chin, he's using his power, his authority to knock her back. Yeah. And then, so I just wanted to give that and see if you guys kind of see that the same way. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I always think on the left and the right.
Yeah.
Like that is significant.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the bear trap.
The bear trap.
Could be Russia.
I mean,
Is
that's
she
what.
setting that trap like for him,
Well-
or
well,
was
I
it
think-
set for her?
Well, I think it was set for him. I think that's why she's giddy. She's got the knife, she's got the skeleton key, and she's got the trap. And here comes the wagon, to finish him off with
Right.
So yeah, it's a very vivid picture that he's
Correct.
living through in this dream.
Quickly. Well, then she steps into the trap, and she's trying to get out, and she's trying to pick up the knife, and she can't lean over. She can't get the trap. She can't get the knife. As the president runs, he's running towards the beast, which is the car he's in.
And another reference for the beast, and like anybody, you guys can Google all this. And like I said, I've done all the looking into everything. So
For the Secret
beast,
Service.
yeah, it's the Secret
Yeah.
Service, but it's
Yeah.
built like a tank.
Yeah.
Is basically the best way they could put it. Like, even the glass that he's got is 5 inches thick.
Yeah.
On the sides of the vehicle, it's got the metal plate underneath
It's
it just in
bomb-proof.
case. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's and so and funny that another term for the beast is the stagecoach. So they got two. Sorry, I just wanted to tie that in too. I mean, everything that he's mentioning, we're kind of goofing off, like with about the stagecoach and the Conestoga wagon, and it was built. The Conestoga wagon was built, I want to say, in like 1840 to 1860, roughly the same time as the Civil War.
Yep.
Civil War, like, Gettysburg was fought in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Like, and he keeps making references of things that he sees that kind of looks like a Civil War. Like,
It's the time
I
period.
think that is the purpose of everything that he is seeing.
We
Is
talked
like,
about
it's
that
meant
before.
to bring a civil war.
As soon as we saw this dream, all three of us had the same exact reaction of like, man, this is all Civil War imagery.
Yes.
Because of the words, the descriptions. I mean, all of it. I mean, everybody's seen enough movies about that time period to where it automatically takes you
automatically
back.
think of
you
that,
you
yeah.
automatically
Yeah.
think of that. There's just no other time period that all of those items fit in.
Yeah.
And even when he gets further in there,
I
it's
was
like,
gonna say,
And I was
he's
gonna
about to
say,
pull
yeah,
some
so
more stuff.
there's
yeah.
some more stuff that's
But
exactly
I think that lets
time
you
period.
know, like what time period we are in right now. This is
Yeah.
being mirrored to a time period where people were at each other to the point where you were killing your own family.
Yes.
Because of beliefs
Yeah.
and political beliefs
Yeah.
at the time. But in reality,
And it's sad, but here we are.
Yes.
I hear 3 gunshots, and they're handgun shots. This is not a shotgun or a rifle. This is a handgun shot. I hear 3 shots fired. And out of nowhere, I see 3 different, and it happens like there's one shot, then another, then another. But as Trump is running to the beast, a Secret Service agent jumps in front and gets one of the bullets, and then rolls to the ground. Trump keeps running. The second shot's fired. Another Secret Service agent jumps in front of Trump and takes the shot and hits the ground. And then the third Secret Service agent jumps in front of the third bullet that comes at him. And then he gets into the beast. And at that moment, what I saw was the Secret Service agents were around the beast, but instead of normal, modern, traditional AR-15s or guns, they had muskets. But the other thing I noticed in the dream, that none of them were wearing glasses. Most Secret Service agents that I've always seen have always had sunglasses. And I noticed in the dream, they're all standing around the car looking out with the muskets like this. Nobody has it like this. They've got the muskets up, and they're watching, and they're looking around. They're surrounding the car, looking out from the car. The car is moving slowly, and they're moving with the car.
All right.
Yeah, and again, that same reference to that Civil War era, like, why weren't they wearing glasses?
Yeah.
Well, because
Yeah.
there were no glasses.
Yep.
You know, the sunglasses as we know them now. But the muskets were the big, like, oh man, that just finished it off when you're listening to this dream of like, okay, there's.
But I mean,
there's
he
that
talks about
reference.
3 shots too.
Yeah.
Like, and he's calling on the Secret Service. Now, this is the way I'm seeing it. When he references muskets, and I'm seeing patriots. Like, this is being termed constantly about the people that are standing up and protecting Donald Trump
And taking,
and
there's 3 people that, you know, are taking bullets,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or 3, you know, let's call them maybe not people, so to speak, but there's 3 entities that are taking
Yeah.
bullets for Trump
Yes.
in this scenario.
And so that's the way. And then the ones that surround the car, I believe, are Americans.
Mm-hmm.
They're patriots, whether they're in office, whether they're these people that are signing affidavits that are willing to say,
Yep.
you know,
Or whether it's,
thousands of
just
people are
thousands of people
signing
showing
these
up.
things.
Yeah.
To,
Well,
like,
there's, but they're up. I mean, they're looking at prison time if they're lying.
No, I agree. Yeah, this is.
These are thousands and thousands of people that are willing. And then, you know, Sidney Powell, you know, she makes a reference at one point. It may be up to millions now that are writing in saying, "Hey, we've seen things."
Yeah.
So when I look at that, and
the fire hose.
the Secret Service, like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that is an actual like Secret Service or if it's like a secret group of people, like, you know, the silent majority kind of thing, like where we just
I think it's more of a, like you say, it's not literal men as much as it is a movement.
Yeah.
And a patriotic movement that's surrounding Trump, but letting you know kind of mentally what you're preparing for is, you know, it's almost like that last stand effort.
exactly.
That's what I envision of what he's talking about is this. There are, like, we are basically like the patriots are that last stand group.
I think it's to me, like, what I think is sort of what you're saying is like it's the citizens, it's
Yes,
the people,
it's us.
it's
Yep.
the people who are like, we see what's going on.
Yep.
It's the
And we're willing to die for
tens
it.
of thousands of people that are showing up to these like to support the president. And so when you see like these people that are not Secret Service agents but are protecting the president, just like, you know,
When have you
Yeah.
ever seen 1 million people show up after election
To the loser.
to the loser of a, and you can understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that understand what's going on.
Right.
And we're there. It's great seeing people stand up. There's a lot of people that are kind of discouraged right now. We're hearing that a lot.
there's
too.
a lot of
There's
people,
a lot of
yeah.
people that are discouraged. It's like, man, look, just hang in there, keep the faith,
Yeah.
like keep praying, because it's okay to get discouraged. It's not
Yeah.
okay to stay there.
Right.
Do something about it. If you're down there, get on your knees and pray.
exactly.
If you're already down there, go ahead and pray while you're there.
Exactly.
And that'll lift you right back up. But yeah, the discouragement is, I mean, we know it, but that's why we've been telling everybody for months that this isn't going to be over on election night. This is going to
True.
end up in the Supreme Court. This is what we've been telling everybody.
Yeah, the
This
whole
is not-
Amy Coney Barrett was. We said,
We
it.
said
Why
it.
are they rushing to get her in? Literally weeks before the election.
Go
It's like,
back and
because
watch
it's
our
gonna
second
happen.
show.
Yeah,
I mean, our second show, we did all that, which is why we wanted to go back and visit these dreams, because people were like, all of a sudden, like, oh crap, well, you guys
and
were kind of correct.
Rudy has said that in certain cases. He's like, we want to lose some of these cases. So I got people saying, well, they're losing cases. He says we want it to, so that we can take it to the Supreme Court.
Correct.
I mean, he's
They
openly
know
said
what
that.
they're doing.
Yeah.
You are probably more into watching this kind of unfold, how it gets to the Supreme Court. Most Americans don't understand how you get to the Supreme Court. You can't get there unless you lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what people are like, oh, well, we lost in that court. Like, yeah, that's an actual good thing, because now we're moving it up.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, because
that,
once the Supreme Court stamps it,
boom, that's it. I mean,
Lifetime.
there is no other higher court. I mean,
Right.
that's where it stops.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Buck stops there.
yes.
yeah.
Buck.
Where are we
Hillary
at?
tried to pull her leg away, she couldn't, and finally the wagon struck her. There was just a huge explosion, and in the explosion, it threw the carcasses of the mules up on top of the building rubble, and the smoke was coming off them like they'd been grilled or something.
So, once again, I just kind of listening, and he says the carcasses of the mules. So that lets you know, like we talked about mules referencing donkeys or whatever, the Democratic Party, right? Both of these, and I don't know what it means. I don't know if it means the
death. of
the
party.
left,
Yeah.
the left, like far left, heavy liberal, crazy side, and then the other kind of moderate Democrat. If the party just dies and falls onto the rubble, right, and then it says, and then he says, I see smoke coming off of it as if they'd been grilled. Does that mean that they have been in court being grilled over everything that they were involved in?
Yeah.
Do they get taken to court? Do they have their day in court? And then they have to answer for everything that they were an accomplice to. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
Could also mean the electric chair.
could be.
Yeah.
I don't think they use that anymore. Doesn't mean they shouldn't.
Biden was laying face down in the middle of the street, and he had wheel tracks over the back of him, and there was a vulture sitting on his head.
So I want to just bring this out real quick. So interpreting the dream, and I went and just took this right off of the website because I can't say it correctly. Dreaming about a bird or a vulture eating a carcass, right? About a bird eating a carcass means someone has to lose something for you to win. I'm assuming that this means either Biden or Harris, right? Like I think we all think, Harris assumes she's going to get, moved into that position.
Yeah.
But it could be that.
But I think
does
Biden
lose his mind?
I mean, that's what I told you that day. Is I think Biden just is completely out of it at that point mentally, but that train just keeps on going. Like they just completely like,
Run
oh,
over 'em. Yeah.
we've used you, we're done with you. Sorry, but we're keeping going. It's like, oh, it just rolled right over the top of him, and he's just lying face down. It's like he's used up.
Yeah.
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 But that comes after the explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in the Bible, isn't the vulture also an eagle?
In some
Referenced as
cases,
an
Some
yeah.
eagle?
some cases,
And-
yes, depending on the
It depends on
Hebrew
what
of the
it-
word.
what
And
it's
the
talking
eagle
about.
is a representative
Yes.
of America.
But I don't
Nothing?
think that has. No, I think vultures here are literally whatever entities and whatever are behind all this. I think they're the ones that are willing to take whatever it is that they have to take,
The
whether it be a
spoils.
pound of flesh
Yeah,
or
the
whatever. Like, I mean,
yeah.
Alrighty.
Harris was crying in disbelief, and her tears looked like they were the size of quarters. It was almost like she was crying quarters. The tears were as big as quarters, and it appeared like they were it looked like quarters coming out of her eyes.
And I put my note on there.
25th
Do you guys agree with that? You think that
Yeah.
that's what she's counting on?
Is the 25th Amendment.
Yeah.
And they've already introduced that, you
Yeah.
know, to the public with Trump.
Because they want you to know.
They want you to understand what the 25th Amendment is. Like, oh, well, you know.
No one had even heard of that. Like,
No.
what?
We had to go look it up.
Yeah.
Well, you probably didn't, but me and him did.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, what exactly?
What
is
is
she trying to
exactly
bring
of the
up?
25th Amendment?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because I wasn't very familiar with how to use it. I mean, I was
True.
familiar, but like, I'm like, okay, what a case could you use that against?
Yeah.
Well, now we're familiar
Like
with
if
it.
you go
so is
get a
the public.
haircut, you know, okay, Pence, while I'm out at the barber, you're covering the desk or something like that.
Yeah.
Or?
Well, I mean, are you asking what the 25th Amendment would be used
I know
for?
what it
We
is.
know
I mean,
what
but
it is now.
Listeners might not know exactly
Correct.
what it is and
Yep.
how it works. So
Well, the 25th Amendment is if the president is deemed not capable of doing his job,
Yep.
it would be the vice president and a majority of the cabinet members would have to say, okay, you're not cutting it. And then they would have to send that off, I believe, to the Senate and get
Yes.
approval by the Senate and I think
And
the
the
House,
House.
too.
Yeah.
Majority, you know, which is why they were all in on this one.
Yeah.
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 Like we gotta get the House and the Senate,
Yeah.
which sort of explains like why you would spend $300 million
Right.
to,
Oh,
to
of-
flip
on one
as
election.
much as possible.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, and so yeah, you would have to get the approval of all of them.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Or you can just kill the guy, which you know
All right.
wouldn't put it past anybody.
Not this group.
Interestingly enough, the Secret Service was created in 1865, just a couple of months after Lincoln was
The
killed.
George Washington. Oh, okay. I think he was the first Central Intelligence agent.
Yeah, he started the spies, Washington spies.
And then I saw the church. There was a separation line, and it was no middle ground. No middle ground left. As the sides literally, but I guess in the dream, at this time of the dream, sides had to have been taken.
Yeah, man, we're already kind of right there in the middle of that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I have fielded more questions and phone calls and emails probably about, you know, the shape of the church as we know it right now and what our opinions would probably be to the church moving forward, because we say, hey, the church is not going to look like it looks right now.
Yeah.
Coming into the near future in the 7 to 10 year period. But because it's funny how God is choosing to wake up some people that really aren't in church, but he's waking them up like with a hammer. You know, like, I mean, just all in, full go, gas all the way down, but yet the majority of the church going people want nothing to do with, you know, what
Yeah.
God has to say still.
Yeah.
It's kind of an odd time because you would kind of expect the difference, but you know, again, you know, that lukewarm church I mean, even, you know, it talks about it in Revelation, that's the worst place you could be is the lukewarm church.
Yeah.
Because God would rather you hot or cold. He can't really do anything with you right
Well,
there in the
I think
middle.
that the fact that we have highlighted prophets and these guys that are speaking what God is giving them,
Correct.
and they're speaking it, and we're going to bring in a couple of other ones just to tie into what he's saying so that everybody can give it. It gives it more credence, more
Yeah.
relevance or whatever. But I did a Facebook Live the other day because I'd seen a couple of videos where big name pastors were coming out and they had prophesied that Trump was going to win a second election, and they were apologizing and saying, "Hey, man, I'm really sorry. I guess I got it wrong." You know, and I was sitting there and I was cringing.
That made me sick to my stomach. Really.
Yeah, it did. It made me. It really did. It
I'm
was
with you.
bothering me all day long to the
Yeah.
point I was like, I got to address this. Like, I got to
Because
get it off of my.
because you have people already in a discouraged kind of atmosphere. Lots of people dealing with depression and everything else, and then now you're coming out before God's completed
Yeah.
what He's going to complete.
Yeah. Talk about a spirit of confusion then.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's why I
Yes.
think when he
I was
says,
thinking that same thing.
once
yeah.
this happens, there is no middle ground. There's nobody like
No.
wondering, well, do I follow this? Do I follow that? No, you know.
Yeah.
At this point,
These
like,
pastors are going to be staring at their Twitter screen like, how do I?
How do I now? Where do I go? Oh, it's exactly right. Like
Yeah.
you've either walked the side of faith,
yeah.
or you don't. If you don't, that's between you and God. But if
Right.
you do, you're already in tune with
Well,
God.
I've told people, I'm like, look, I believe that this, I have prayed this thing through. I don't know how many times to find out. Am I a complete idiot? Am I just following what I want to happen?
No.
And I have never once felt
Yeah.
like this word isn't right.
Yeah.
And so I think that is a challenge to believers.
Of course.
Right? It's a challenge to us
It's not
to say,
easy.
hey, just keep watching, like, and then you've got other people coming out and saying, nah, this is going to happen. You need to accept this, blah, blah, blah. So I think at a certain point, we're going to realize that God does speak,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Or either the people that believe God speaks are dead wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really do believe that. And,
Yeah.
and it's like we joke around about Jeremiah Johnson saying, then a lying spirit entered all the prophets all at the same
all
time.
at the same
Yeah.
time. And I mean, one of the Kim Clement notes that I have in bold letters in my main notebook,
Yeah.
is one that affected me during the first Trump run was, and I will fool the people, right? Because I almost got fooled. And a constant reminder of God, don't let me get fooled.
Yeah.
Let me constantly know, like, and be maneuverable to what you have to say, no matter how foolish it might look or sound.
Right.
Because it is foolishness. It's for the simple and the simple man and the simple woman, the simple person, even childlike.
Yeah.
That's what this is about.
Correct.
And I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, now is the time to choose your side. And for me, I'm on the side of like, look, man, I'm willing to walk this whole thing out.
Yeah.
Because I have nothing else on the other side.
Yeah.
What is on the other side of unbelief?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, there's nothing over there to begin with.
Yeah.
But worry and desperation
Right.
and despair.
Yeah.
And yelling and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah. That's the
Quite
way.
possibly.
That's the far left.
Oh man. Speaking of though, I did want to add, you lose a case in court for a couple of reasons. It's a positive. One, if you think you really got something, you can appeal it
Right.
and move it to another. But at the same time, these court cases, when you're doing so many of these court cases, it does slow down the system of what is taking place.
Like counting ballots.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Because I mean, it's taking them
to an
weeks to count
to an
the
extent.
last like 2%.
To an extent, it's like all this stuff is, we've got lawsuits on all of this stuff, so you can't stamp your seal of approval on this yet. All
Right.
this stuff is,
Yep.
so you slow down. They may be counting, but
Yeah.
they have to slow down whatever it is their next step would be, because everything is under a lawsuit.
Good point.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for clarifying.
And the fire moved on the heads of people who had been praying. And above the heads of many people in the church, I saw an actual question mark symbol above their head.
Stop
and
right
they
there.
appeared
I love
And that's
that.
it.
Because that part to me, I went and rewatched a few different times because there's a lot going on in that one sentence.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. There's a lot going on in that one sentence about the fire, over the head of the people.
Yeah.
Like, that to me gave me goosebumps. I was like, man, that's where.
Well, it's that whole spirit of
That's
truth and
where-
spirit of confusion. Like
Yeah.
you
That's
really
where we need to
embrace
be
one.
as a church. And then right after that, it was some had question marks over their head. Like, folks,
Yeah.
wake people up, be done with the question mark.
Yeah.
Like, move over to the side of faith, and because God will light that fire onto you, like He's done so many people.
Right.
Like, man, we could sit here and just name off people that have just called it, just like, I don't know what happened, but the light bulb's gone off.
Correct.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just gone on, and it's just like this flood, because that's God going, you're in a right place. You're in a spot that I can plant seeds in you. And it's like,
That's
man, I
right.
wasn't going to church for years. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like you're on a search for truth, not for a search for,
Yes.
like anything. It's that truth.
Yeah.
And the fire is the truth that's connecting you to God, which Charles Turner III brings up in his dream.
Yeah.
That it's like, that's why when we're watching these dreams, and then you have other pastors having these same dreams, they're all speaking the same things in and out of their dreams, which is how we connect with, like, man, this is what God's word, the whole thing is trying to
And I
get
want
to.
to add something as well, that people, like you've got pastors like, well, I guess they're wrong. Well, the modern church, especially the American church or the Western culture church, has gotten so acclimated to God doesn't speak anymore. Now he'll speak to you, he'll touch your heart and tell you, hey, go give money to that homeless person.
Right.
But he's not going to speak through like those
He's
days
not
are
speaking
over.
in the big,
Correct.
the
And
big arena.
Not
there are
necessary.
There are actual like organizations, denominations, whatever, that say all those miracles were strictly for the apostles.
Yes.
And that after they were done, it was just to increase the faith of the people and spread the gospel. That's all it's about. So anything that you
Well, those same
but,
people will
it's
say
null
that
and
he
void.
speaks through a 6-week series.
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, you better
Or a
believe
daily devotional.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's also biblical of where we're at, like
And
what
some-
Paul talked about, having the form of godliness, but no power.
Denying the power thereof.
Denying the power. It's just powerless.
And I see that as there are mirror images of the spiritual. It's the parallel universe.
Yes, there you go.
It's
Right.
they're the mirror image of the spiritual and the physical.
Yeah.
It's just like the subversion that has taken place in the world
Is also
throughout
happening.
is in the church
spiritually.
too.
Yep.
And so it is a destabilization that's taken place in the church.
Yes.
To where you, like, even in the real world right now, are like, oh, apparent winner. Like, everybody's like, okay, that's a destabilization project going on right now.
That's
Right.
what
Like,
the media did
and so you-
election night.
so you don't know what
the
to
next
believe.
day. That's exactly why they declared Biden
Correct.
the winner.
Yeah.
And so when you have the Holy Spirit speaking through a prophet,
Yep.
everybody's like, he doesn't do that anymore. This is not true.
Or, yeah,
so you've
right.
destabilized the church.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and double-mindedness is what destabilizes it. So
Yeah.
you hear something today, you believe it tomorrow, you don't believe it. Why? Because a little evidence showed that, it's not true. Like,
And that's
oh,
why
I guess it's
watching
not
those
true.
pastors apologize.
Dude, it
was
was
like,
unreal. I was
oh,
sitting there
man,
going,
I was
this
just
guy's
like-
going to have to turn around and
and
apologize for
apologizing.
apologizing.
Yeah. When
Like-
all you had to do is stand on, if God gave you that word, you better stand right there.
Yeah.
Especially being a pastor.
and
You're
what
the
is it?
lead-
When
the lack
all
of
you
leadership.
you've done, stand. Like that's
Yeah.
it.
That's
At the end of it, that's all you
that's
can do.
biblical.
You can't even fight. You
No,
just
I got
stand.
nothing. I got nothing else left.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. Like, man, at some point, it's going to look so bad.
Well, I've said that in my prayers, like, when I've had difficult times, I'm like, God, if ultimately your role is to let me humiliate myself and make a fool of myself, so be it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Here I
with
am.
you.
What am I gonna do?
I'm going to
Yeah.
do it. Like,
Yes.
And God doesn't allow that to happen.
No.
God will rescue you in your
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the humble are exalted.
exactly.
And it's interesting. You stand and then you wait for the Calvary
Yeah.
Yeah.
to show up. All right. Here
Look
we
to
go.
the east.
Look into the hills.
By what they were seeing in the world and the church. And I heard a voice say, those who refuse to get ready will be wanting in the end. So brace yourself and tell others that I have warned them to brace themselves, for they are about to see even more shocking things.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah. And we got
Friday
one more.
night, August 21st, I simply saw the white figure appear,
Oh, I didn't put that one in
raise
there,
the
did I?
finger to the sky,
Oh,
and he
okay.
said, ready
Sorry.
or not, nation,
You're right.
here it comes. Brace yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was a good thing. Like, even at the end of the dream, he said, brace yourself for there's more things to come.
Going back to Kim Clement
Yeah.
during that one time, remember he says, I'm going to humble you, and then I'm going to humble you some more.
Correct.
If you remember that.
There was a double
Yes.
period of, like, I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to turn around and do it again.
Yeah. So people need to just, what he's saying, brace yourself, is like, please, man. Like,
Yeah.
And
Well, we
prepare
talk about
yourself
the
in
grace
every
period,
aspect.
the grace period we're in that Clement talked about too. I mean, folks, if you don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch our first show. But he talked about the grace period we're in. I've told a lot of people this, like, man, right now is
Yeah.
the easier time to jump on board and get right with God and tell God, hey, man, God, just lead me and guide me, because what's coming further down the road, you know,
I think it was Quincy Adams that said,
John Quincy Adams, like the president.
I think so.
Okay.
that he made
Taking
a
it back.
statement. You probably know this better than I do. You may know who said it. But he said that the lifespan of a democracy is between 200 and 250 years.
It's
Like-
Thomas Jefferson. Yeah.
Was
Okay.
it? Well, like I said, you would know better than I do.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you go from 1776, what do we get to 2026 to get to
Somewhere
the
in there.
250?
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, that falls in line with our
Timeline.
Hey, the grace period is over.
Yep. And we've
now
moved
it's time
into the
to-
judgment period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the whole, you know, I mean, we've got it ranging from anywhere in there.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that out. Like, there's so many references, and like whether that's prophetic or not, but he used historical facts to determine that democracy can't, because once the people who rule get corrupted and they figure out ways, and then the people get corrupted.
Yes.
And anyways, so
Exactly, and that's what the founding fathers said. It's interesting because I ran across that the other day. I'm quite certain it's Thomas Jefferson, but they're like, if the people lose their virtue, a democracy cannot exist without virtue.
correct. Yeah, because
And
they take advantage of it.
Speaking of subversion, you know, it's been a subversive act over this past 100 years to eliminate the people's virtue,
To work.
diminish, to work, but to diminish religion.
Yeah.
And
Man.
so that's where we are. All right. So we've got Charles Turner the third.
Oh yeah.
It's about a 2.5 minute clip. You guys want to just let it run, and then we'll discuss once it's
because I think what he has to say is so powerful if we just let it run.
Yeah, I mean,
instead of breaking
we
his
did bring this on. What was it?
The second episode,
So if you
and
want to go
bless
see
you.
the whole thing again, and we break it down.
Come on,
Producer sneezing back there.
Jake. All right, here we
But
go.
I would say that, like, before you start, Charles
Okay.
Turner the third, like, go back and watch this whole video, people.
Yeah,
Like,
He's not usually like that.
No, like
As
you
he
really
says.
get a good sense of how disturbed he actually was about his dream.
yeah,
But go watch his whole video. It's truly amazing. We're just going to give you a small clip of it just to let you know that this guy was seeing the same things back in June, July. I think that was it June, I believe.
They both had
That
the
sounds
dream at
right,
the same
yeah.
It's
time.
about the
It's a
same
couple of
time
days that
it was a
separated
couple of
it.
days that
Yeah.
separated, but it was back in June. So that's how we really connected these two, and God helped us connect those two. 'Cause we probably would have never linked them, but
Yeah.
but go and watch the whole video.
yeah.
So.
I heard people robbing each other. They were breaking into each other's homes. People were trying to steal things from cars on the street. People were stealing food. People were absolutely trying to take things from each other, and they were doing it by force and willing to die for it. And all of a sudden, I looked at it, I said, what is going on? I grabbed my hand and I said, what is going on? And all of a sudden, above me, I heard a loud voice say, bloodshed. And as soon as I heard that voice, immediately people were shooting each other. They were carrying guns in the street. There was no police anywhere to police this issue or to bring order. It was complete chaos of what was going on. I did not understand this, and it just freaked me out so bad. And all of a sudden, my eyes popped open from sleep. And somehow, some way, in the midst of my disturbance, I fell asleep again. When I fell asleep again, I saw the same 3 pastors. This time they were bigger and they were higher. I saw the people. It was dark. There were no lights. People were trying to find lights, and there was no lights to find anything. And because of the darkness, the incapability to get any lighted areas, pandemonium broke out. Hysteria broke out. I saw people arguing in parking lots, shooting each other. I saw people in neighborhoods standing out in front of their houses, shooting each other. It was crazy what I saw with this. I was so disturbed. And I looked up and I said, God, please help us. Please help this chaos that is going on. And all of a sudden, I saw China and Russia coming into the United States of America. I don't know that I understand it, but they were military. They were soldiers. and they were coming in to maintain the peace. I don't know where the U.S. military was or anything like this, but they were coming in, and what they were doing was putting people in concentration camps. They were arresting people. Chinese soldiers and Russian soldiers were arresting people, and they were taking guns from everybody. I grabbed my face and I said, what? I said, what are Chinese soldiers and Russian soldiers doing in America? And as soon as I asked that question in the dream, immediately I heard the Lord shout, and he said, September, October, November. He said, warn the people. And I woke up.
Man, that was
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
It's an intense video.
Yeah.
Like that. It's a lot of that, but it's a great video. I love how God, for September, October, and November, he's trying to warn the people. That's it. It was.
I mean, that's what I wonder. Is this a warning of
Yeah.
things that could happen
yeah,
if this goes the wrong way? Just like I said, Build Back Better. I mean, it's a straight, direct quote from the UN.
yeah,
You know, a part of me thinks that this is probably where we talk about the judgment time where
yeah.
we get destabilized. But I could be wrong. Maybe it is that, use September, October, November to warn the people
That's
of
what
the
I-
things to come.
That's
Like,
what I got out of that.
Yeah.
Of September, October, November, warn the people.
Yeah.
And it's, he had that dream in June.
Yeah.
And so it was like those 3 months were really kind of chaotic months for everything.
Like why would he say September, October, November when you don't know what September, October, November? Like,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
And then he's gonna tell you warn the people. What, every September, October, November you warn the people about something? I mean, I'm just saying logically, probably what you're saying makes more sense
Yeah.
of this happening. But I really hope and pray that this is a warn the people. If they don't do what they need to do, then this could happen.
Yeah.
Hopefully this
Or,
doesn't happen.
or it happens regardless, and they need to be prepared for it, like what
Yeah.
Coverstone was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he does
I mean,
like
you're
so
right.
further
I mean,
in.
I'm
further
playing
in
the
the
optimistic.
yeah, but I mean,
Yeah,
further in the
there,
Charles
like-
Turner third dream, and further into the dream, he starts talking about, the bloodshed that's coming, and the stores out of food, and
Because I don't see how it's like if you don't do this, this will happen. I think it's bound to happen regardless.
Yeah.
I think this country is at a point of no return
yeah,
I do too.
when it comes to the revolutionary fight.
Yes.
Correct.
Like we are exactly where the French Revolution was
Well,
and
at
the
some
Russian Revolution
point,
was.
you're gonna have to stand up, and you're gonna
But
have
it's
to.
it's like it does not have to go in that direction.
It
As
doesn't.
I was writing that out
Yep.
today, I was like, as I was doing some research, and I'm like, we are following sort of the same line as the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution, pretty much all the same stuff. And the difference between the French Revolution that took place and the Russian Revolution that took place and our revolution that took place
Yeah.
was ours was not a jump to chaos. It wasn't descent and then a descent, like dissenters, not a descent, but and then going into chaos and then looking to a man to be the leader, which is what the French and the Russians did. What we did is we dissented against the Great Britain, against the king, but we didn't go into chaos. In fact, we became even more organized and laid everything out, went to war. It still led to war, but that's not necessarily chaos.
No,
And then we
but
did
there
not
was
look
a-
to a man.
There
we
was a
looked to-
organized
purpose.
chaos.
Yeah, I mean, there was a purpose
Right.
behind what we were.
Well, there was a purpose behind the chaos that took place in French in the
Yeah,
French and the
India.
Russian
Yeah,
Revolution as well, but it was not good. Ours was a good end, and it
Correct.
was based on the people.
But I also think that's where we're at again.
And that's what I was going to say. It's like I think we're in that same like timeline where it's just like the chaos is here, but it's one of those things where like I think the organization is going to stay there. The worry is that what the French and the Russians did was they looked to an individual, a man, to save them, and I hope that that is not the case. And I don't believe that that's the case with Trump, although there is the chance that could happen where people look to a man instead
Yeah.
of to God
Yeah.
or to each other, like we did at the with our first revolution. So I think that those are things that we have to look at where it is warning the people so that they can be prepared for whatever is going to take place, because it's going to take place. It
Yeah.
cannot not take place.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, a lot of people don't fight until they have to fight, and that's the
Correct.
problem. Is like I know my personality, for some people, rubs people the wrong way because I'm very confrontational about certain things. But I realize that if you fight now, when the battle is small, it never gets to the war.
Correct.
So if people would get in and start fighting and standing up for certain things, instead we let our entire education system go completely to crap, and then we're like, what do we do? Well, now it's a machine, and it's going to be very difficult to rage against the machine. So,
well, like in all these states that are going on lockdown.
yeah,
Like there's more of you than there are of them.
Exactly.
They can't arrest 2 million people.
Right.
Like you just go live your life. Open your stores.
but
Go
we
live
live
your
in
life.
we live in a red county, and I still go to the stores, and you still see 95% of the people.
Oh yeah.
You
I
know,
wearing-
and within our red county, they don't force you to wear these masks.
yeah.
But they wear these masks, and it's
Because we've been conditioned.
That's the
Correct.
that's the
Yeah, that's the
normalization.
yes,
You
of
believe
what-
whatever it is the higher ups have told you.
Correct. I mean,
even if it's been
Fauci-
proven wrong, and they go back and forth, which they've
Yeah,
done all year.
Fauci, yeah,
Fauci
go
came
ahead.
out today and said, "Oh, even if you get the vaccine,
need
we're
to
still going to
wear a
make you wear
mask."
the mask." Like, it's not about a virus.
No, it's not.
No.
It's about control, and
Right.
this is what you're going to do. Because, like he says, like now's the time to do what you're told. Like, I mean, that's on his one video. It's
Yeah.
like, America, our freedoms allow us to do things. We're not. Well, now's
Well,
the time
they
to
feel
get.
empowered right now because they
They do.
buy into Biden has won.
That's
Correct.
exactly
So now you're
right.
going to see them really
Really
expose
step it up.
themselves.
Yep.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. Do y'all want to tackle any more of what Mr. Turner or Apostle Turner discussed? We've got no police, right?
He sees that there's no police around.
Yeah.
No military.
And there's no,
No
military,
military.
as well. But
Yep.
the Chinese and the Russians come in.
And I think we brought that up in show 2 about some of these West Coast states that really basically they're destabilizing their state to a point of no return.
Right.
Washington, Oregon, all
Yeah.
of these states, and I could see.
But I think you've made mention of that, right? About the whole open that border side. It's very close to
That side.
other countries, and so it would give them that open door to
Yeah.
move in. And so
That's one of the things I was reading the other day. That was one of the fears of the founding fathers was that if we don't become a union, if we don't come together as one, then some of these other states are going to invite some foreign powers in.
Well,
and
like
then
if
you're gonna have a whole
if
can of
it
worms.
swings to Trump, like we know it will,
you're
and
going.
then you're going to have these these governors
Yeah.
reaching out to the UN.
you had a secession once.
Correct. And reach out to the UN and go, hey, man, we're being controlled by tyranny and we need you to come and step in. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in these dreams that you could break down for a long time and
Sure.
probably still not get it right, but at least you're basically, it's like warn the people. So we're just be
just
prepared.
think, yeah,
Just
think.
be
What would you
prepared.
do? How do you
Yes.
operate? I mean, all of us. You can only do number one so much, and then number two, God isn't warning you so you can worry. God is warning you so that you will find a prayer closet. You will
Yes.
pray.
And we've also talked about dreams not being literal.
Sure,
Right?
yeah.
So China and Russia, what is the primary doctrine that they were built on over the past 100 years?
I think
Little
I
communism.
think it could very well be media
Yep.
is the China, and then using their national media kind of format, and then Russia being in our academia,
Yep.
showing how
So
you.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
mean-
But when he says
don't you don't
the blue
actu-
helmets
Yeah.
is the UN.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. That's why I said when I bring in the UN, I mean the governors may be reaching out
That's right.
specifically to the UN for help,
Yeah.
making Trump look, like a dictator.
Correct.
Like, oh, he's stealing the election and
You're right. I mean,
And the UN would be more than willing, I
the
think, to
the
step
UN
up.
already
absolutely.
wants to
Yeah.
step
They
in.
hate Trump.
They hate Trump.
Right.
Yep.
So, stores out of food. I
Yes.
think that is just one of the things
I
that's going
think
to
Brandon
It's-
hit on
And
that
we've
about the
talked
trucking
I was
issue.
going to say, about the trucking issue.
The trucking and the shipping.
Yeah.
I mean,
What
we
did you
already
say
know
the other day?
there's
That what was about
two
Greece?
countries?
Yeah,
and-
Greece and China.
Okay.
They make up 60% of the shipping.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
You know, right there, that tells you that if China wants to retaliate in any way, shut down their shipping, that's 30%.
Yeah.
And then Greece, if for some reason they're tied into UN and all that stuff,
Yeah.
well, then they just say, we'll just shut down altogether.
Yeah.
And we'll show you who's, you know. And that's
And-
why I
and-
think Trump realized we've got to move manufacturing back to the U.S. We've got to be responsible for our own
Correct.
and supplying our own
Yes.
needs and our own, you know.
Yeah. Making our own stuff.
Correct.
Brilliant.
Having our own food.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And
we
he
know
has been bringing-
why he's doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been doing a great job. of it.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I made a reference to, because we're going to get into this one here where it's talking about Philadelphia and the Church of Philadelphia in Revelation 3. And it's like, if you read that, he's saying, if you will do these things, I will save you from, and like I said, I know we've talked about Revelation and prophecy. I'm pretty certain that you could twist it like a lot of people do. And does he save you from that time of trial, that tribulation? I don't know. We can read that one
Yeah.
day, and it's like, does this really go back to the city of Philadelphia, but the Church of Philadelphia? Is it really all coming down to this one city to determine the future of America?
Yeah.
Like we come up with Amy Coney Barrett is her vote. Is it that one vote
It is
in this
that
country
huge.
that
I
determines the
think
direction of this country?
I think we believe that, yes. that
And then
does.
it could be Philadelphia that is the one that
Is-
gives us that opportunity for
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah. And speaking of Philadelphia, we're about to do some videos that are discussing Philadelphia.
Right.
yeah.
So, Dana.
Back to Dana.
But when the flashes reached Philadelphia, and this was specifically the city that I saw where all this was happening was Philadelphia, the network line that was red, it was like it looked like a fire.
Hey, it's on your birthday. You see that?
You know who else has a birthday? Kamala Harris, October
Yours?
20th. Yeah, I
Oh,
saw that the
man.
other day.
You should feel very
I knew
special.
there was something
I
wrong
did.
with you.
Yeah,
You like
that's why I
her.
voted for her.
That's why you laugh at
I
everything.
put her in as president.
That laugh. Oh,
Oh, let me see. if I can find
That was pulsating with like LED lights inside of it.
So you want to let's do that one more time because I threw us off with my stupid joke.
Yeah, I gotta. let's see if I-
Yeah. Isn't she lovely? Yeah, pull it back. There you go, right there. There you go, stunner.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's my new laugh emoji.
I'll tell you what,
anyways.
if Biden and Harris win, they're coming to get us for that.
You think so?
Oh, I know so. All right, here we go.
But when the flashes reached Philadelphia, and this was specifically the city that I saw where all this was happening was Philadelphia, the network line that was red, it was like it looked like a fire hose that was pulsating with like LED lights inside of it.
We have so much evidence, I feel like it's coming in through a fire hose.
That's pretty bizarre, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to go to those other prophecies too, just so that since we're referencing Philadelphia, but he makes mention numerous times about the fire hose.
Yeah. He does. Yep.
And that woman there has been on several shows, and she's made references numerous times about it's coming through. It's like coming through a fire hose.
Yeah.
We've got so much information and stuff, but I don't know.
So we got this slide.
Yeah, we got a couple of slides that I don't know if
that
Dick.
Dick.
Can
if
you
he'll
get it
wake
up there, buddy?
Oh.
Come
Look
on.
at that. All right. So then I saw, and people can read this. Then I saw the calendar flip
Who
representing
is
different
this?
months.
Who is this speaking?
This one is Chris Reed.
Okay.
You can go on Facebook. He's a younger guy. Like I said, I think God is removing a lot of these older voices, and these new young voices are really moving into these positions. You can go on Facebook, Chris Reed. He had this back in, I want to say August. He had this prophetic word come out. And I say prophetic word, he posted it. So a lot of these guys like to timestamp
they do.
their things so that you can, you know, kind of
Yeah,
validate.
reference, yeah.
Yep. August turned over, then September, then October. And as I saw the month of November 2020, all of the people were standing on each state looking at me, turned their face and their whole body and looked at the state of Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And I can't read that. You don't have to read that.
Okay.
I left my glasses in the trunk.
And no.
And scene.
And as I said, you can read it yourself.
Yes, exactly.
It was as if the whole nation, every single state, was looking at the state of Pennsylvania. The state, of course, that contains Philadelphia, a city that represents so much of the history and the founding of our nation.
I could have done that.
Yeah, come on, Dick. Philadelphia was the site of the First and Second Continental Congress in 1774 and 1775, respectively. The latter of the two produced the Declaration of Independence, sparking the American Revolution. I then saw President George Washington standing in Pennsylvania. Then President Trump came and stood beside him. George Washington put his arm around President Trump and spoke these words to him. You are leading the second revolution to free America from socialism. The whole nation is looking to Pennsylvania once again to declare independence from socialism, radical ideology, and an antichrist agenda, to restore it back to its foundations and to truly keep America great. Okay.
So I mean that's
Yep.
that's his, and then you can flip to the other one. But
So George Washington is a
CIA. I told
keep
you.
America great.
Big fan.
Did he have the hat on? I would like to know that. This is
This one is Charlie. Yeah,
Charlie
Charlie
Champ.
Champ. He's another one that you can go on his Facebook.
Yeah.
He timestamps
He does
his, and then he
timestamp
goes
his
to
stuff.
his own
You wanna-
website.
Yeah.
do it. He put it up on
Steven
the
can
big
read that
screen.
one, man.
Oh man,
He don't know how to read.
ah, you caught me. I'm a musician. I don't need to know how to read.
I'm just over here
If we put it in song form, maybe he could do it.
Yeah, I'll be like, man, play it for me.
I heard the Lord say.
Hey,
All right.
my stuff
He's
sounds
like,
way
"Dude,
better
come
than that.
on, man.
I'm like, man. Oh god.
You me read it?
Yeah, go for
Okay,
it.
all right. I heard the Lord say, watch Pennsylvania. Yes, watch and see what I will do. Now, he posted his, I want to say, October 22nd. He references Isaiah 22:22, if you want to go and look that up. Yes, watch Pennsylvania. Yes, watch and see what I will do. I say to the intercessors, stand as watchers and as pillars of the state and pray Pennsylvania through in the election, for it will be the key that opens the floodgate for the nation to be delivered from destruction. For America hangs in the balance, and I have placed upon the shoulders of this state to keep the key to the victory that will close the door to the enemy that seeks to destroy the land of liberty. I say, look and see, I have laid the keystone within America. Yes, a tested stone, a wide stone, a precious cornerstone state, a sure foundation where the bell of liberty will ring once again. I will cause a sound to ring out from you, a sound of triumph from my trumpet. For you are my keystone that I have set in the hand of the church to take down this giant in this hour, and the giant that seeks to devour this nation. But he will fall, and his body will cause the ground to quake in the city of brotherly love. Yes, the ground will quake in the city founded by the Quakers. I will shake Pennsylvania by my power, and corruption will. I don't know if I have the rest of it on here, but nevertheless, I mean, you can go.
You
on
can
there.
go read it.
Yeah,
it's a great read. Going back to the first part, if we could go back to the first
Yeah.
part for a minute. When I read this the first time when it came out was, America hangs in the balance. That one sentence is, man, that
Are
could
you
not.
thinking the Supreme Court?
Yes. Because of October, everything that was going on, it was like that one sentence was like, man, how like extremely prophetic
Yeah.
on all sides that one sentence held for us. This whole thing, with him talking about, watch Pennsylvania, yes, and see what I do. Man, there's something about the way that he words all of this that says he's talking to the intercessors specifically and the watchers. Going back to Dana Coverstone's dream with the fire being on, some of the people's heads, the intercession that happens in the spirit. I mean, we were raised with that, with a grandmother that knew all about that. When I read this, it's the same vision and visual representation of God saying the intercessors and the people with fire on their head, I mean, this is who God is calling out. The people with the question marks are, are going to be, you're going to have to step to the side, because right now America hangs in the balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you say grandmother,
Yes.
right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
our grandmother, our mother,
Yep.
intercessors, right? Like, I mean, they taught us how to pray. It's funny, Jeremiah Johnson has a dream, right? I think he put it in one of his books, talking about Trump running this marathon, and he referred to it as the Boston Marathon kind of situation, where at the very end of the marathon, like, I think he says, like, he's 100 yards, 100 feet, something like that, he falls to the ground. Like, he cannot finish
Yep.
on his own. And he says he witnesses 2 elderly women walk out there and lift him up and help carry him
To the finish line.
to the finish line. And so you making the reference, right, when you said
Yeah.
grandmother, like
Yeah.
she was an
It's that-
intercessor. Yeah,
it's
he's
that-
calling, and
He's calling the intercessors.
Right.
And
because
the intercessors
unfortunately the young people
don't know anything about it. The church is like,
and they need it
that's-"
instantly. They
Yes.
need it, or
Yes.
it's just not. It's not satisfying.
Yeah.
It's not satisfactory. Where
Intercessor,
older people are
intercessor is about time on the floor.
correct. Yeah.
Lots of hours, breathing your carpet, or we understand those things because they're long-term battles.
Yes.
They're not short-term fixes. And that's who God is calling out right now. Like you said, that vision out, the visual aspect of what you saw of the 2 old ladies that are helping Trump. We understand what visual about that,
Right.
because that's the generation
That knows how to pray.
that knows how to pray. And right now,
And we've said that, the prophetic word, man, it just came to me right now.
Yes.
Where he says, Perry Stone said his father told him before he passed, he says, it'll be a generation that will worship a God that they will not pray to.
yeah,
And so you can't look to this young generation to do that. You're having to actually look to an older generation to save
yes,
this country.
And it goes back to what I was
Man.
saying a second ago about the mirror image
Yes.
of the
Yeah,
world,
of the world and the spiritual.
in the spiritual
Yeah.
world. We can't look to the young in the spiritual realm, much like if you look to the young in the
destruction.
physical, you see what's going on.
Yes.
Like they're confused.
They are.
Even the ones that aren't going to act in the full,
Right.
They don't know what to do.
Correct.
Yeah, hangs in the balance. Just
Good point.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
The Supreme Court.
No, it's the visual about it. The hang in the balance was the first thing.
And
that-
of course, I need to
Yes.
bring this up. Keystone.
yeah,
Tested stone, a white stone,
Well, the
precious
stone-
cornerstone, a simple stone.
the simple stone and gold
I mean, come
was
on.
the 2 words that Kim Clement referenced that we all wrote down.
Yeah.
It was like, man, that stone word, we've got to watch for that. And then so when this came up, you're like, man, that stone word was like,
Yeah.
man, maybe Philadelphia was what Kim Clement was referencing, was
Yeah.
like, pay attention to the word stone.
So, man,
Good stuff.
good.
So it all ties together. That's, it gives Dana even more relevance in what he's saying. He's saying, the one place I see is Philadelphia.
I agree. Yep.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
But when it got to Philadelphia, the network line was red flashing, went into where the Liberty Bell was sitting. It went underneath the Liberty Bell. And when the pressure began to build up, and it was like watching water in a fire hose, it just filled it up, came underneath the Liberty Bell. And when it got underneath the Liberty Bell, it blew up, and the Liberty Bell went flying straight up in the air. And it split in half. The bell split in the middle of the air. It threw the Liberty Bell up into the air like this, and then the Liberty Bell split in half, and it fell in such a way that the round area landed on the ground, and it was rotate. It was like going back and forth, just wobbling back and forth.
Pause it. Yeah. I mean, you just said it about it hangs in the balance. I wrote on there, it's like the Liberty Bell is teetering.
Yes.
Like it could
Yep.
fall over.
Yep.
But it's basically being, it's a moment of truth right
I've
there.
That's
seen a lot
exactly
of-
right,
I've
yeah.
seen a lot of pieces out right now that are saying this election is a decision between freedom and tyranny, or
Yeah.
freedom and socialism.
Correct.
It's like it's just
That's
a
what it's
two-tiered
teetering
decision.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the Liberty Bell began to melt. It was almost as if a huge heat source, or from the data point that fire hose was so hot that it was melting now. So the Liberty Bell began to melt.
And when I heard that the first time, what I got out of that was a refining. You know how you refine things through fire.
Yeah.
Like America is going to be put through the
Amen.
fire, and it's okay to be put through the fire because refining is actually a good thing. But you have to earn your metal because that fire is extremely hot.
Yeah.
And so the refining of like, man, okay, our liberties are going to get refined, which, like you said, it's not a bad thing to have a revolution sometimes.
Yeah.
Even in America, because you get rid of some of the impurities that come along with refining something. And those impurities, they have no place in our country.
Yeah.
And we're here to stand up against a lot of those impurities. That's what our show is all about. But that was what I visually got when he was talking about that Liberty Bell melting was, to me, was a refining of America.
Yeah.
I saw that the lines of data were all headed towards Washington, D.C. from there. And it looked like the city had these octopus arms, and they were trying to fight to disconnect the data lines. And what I assumed was they were trying to keep the explosive power of the system shutting down from hitting Washington, D.C. And so these octopus arms came out, and they were trying to disconnect the systems. And then there was one that just kept flashing, kept building up pulses. It seemed bigger and more extreme, carrying more data, more information than the other lines I'd seen.
I'm going to release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken.
Had to. So octopus
The
arms
octopus, which the Kraken is a larger version
of an octopus.
An octopus, yes.
It's a great octopus monster.
Did I send you that little pic that I had of it? I don't know if am I on there?
Oh, you're on, baby.
I don't know if you guys can see that. That's
That is the Kraken.
That's the Kraken.
yeah. It gives
Release the Kraken.
But you can Google that. It was very wild when she started making this reference. I'm about to release the Kraken. Like, I mean, granted, but it's like, why would she reference that?
Yeah.
Like, and then he's referencing an octopus, and then
I
he
mean,
starts telling-
it's a
and
regular
it's trying to.
common term, but
Yeah.
it means like I'm about to wreak havoc, you know?
Yeah.
And that's exactly
But
what
he's referring to,
Coverstone's
and he
saying.
sees it. Like, he's
Yeah.
like, and they're trying
Yeah.
to pull this. What is fixing to happen?
And to
Yes.
me, it's like when you're watching that interview on Maria's show, and she does this somewhat weird pause, and then she says, "I'm going to release the Kraken," almost like it was like it just happened.
It just happened.
Yeah.
And she didn't really have that in her mind until that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just seemed like because there was a bit of a pause there
Yeah.
that just seemed
I'm with you.
odd. But all right.
Though there were people wearing suits and ties, this was business attire. I saw justice. It was not necessarily Supreme Court justice. I didn't see faces, but I saw judges. I saw people in suit and tie, business attire, professional business, and they were trying to basically pull this line out of Washington, D.C. to keep it from blowing up or whatever. They were trying to pull this line away from the city. Without avail, to no avail. This thing kept going. It finally blew up because all the connections went to the Capitol building. That's exactly where it was going, to the Capitol building. It finally blew.
So what were you wanting to?
No, I think this was in reference to I think it was from our episode 2 where he talked about seeing people, doing handshakes at the end of the election, patting each other on the back, smiling, all the backroom deals. I wanted you to play that where she addresses that as well.
Okay, no, I have it to where she addresses it later.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure because when he's
not-
talking about these people in suits and judges and all that stuff, like I think that is
When we talk about the 2 Supreme Court justices stepping down because of
Yeah.
embarrassment, and all these things that are coming, and
Yeah.
we'll
I think there's going to be a lot of justices that are.
Yeah.
I've been like Sidney Powell is representing General Flynn, and the FISA court guy Sullivan.
Yeah.
I think he's in hot water.
I would agree.
The appeals court
the guy
said,
that signed
even the appeals court
yeah.
said you need to dismiss this case.
Yeah.
And Judge Sullivan was like, I'm not dismissing this case.
he can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's buried. Like
He's in.
He's in. You just don't walk away from these people. Yep.
yeah.
the building literally cracked in half. So I've seen the Liberty Bell crack in half, and now I saw the Capitol building crack in half.
Anything?
Well, I mean, I think that it's
yeah.
very what it says.
It's
It's split.
split.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
And
with
it
you.
issues
Yep.
Okay.
It's a split.
Yeah.
this huge smoke cloud. And as the smoke goes into the air, it creates a word. And that word was discovery. Discovery was the word that was in the air. So you got the halls of Congress cracked in half. You've got the smoke just billowing up, and it's spelling this word out in the sky, which is the word discovery. It's not like smoke that's dissipating or clouds. It stays there in the sky.
and I don't know if you have that one as well, but Sydney Powell is talking to Lou Dobbs.
Yeah,
to,
I have that
you
one
have that one, and then Kaylee McEnany or whatever her name, McEnany. She makes this reference like 4 days afterwards. She's like, calls it out. She's like, and it will come out in discovery, and it's like it's a legal term or whatever.
Right.
But
Yeah. Well, like the people running from the word discovery.
yes, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's an obvious conclusion.
Yeah.
And there are people that they're running now. And they're not running from the explosion. They're running from the word they see in the sky, which was discovery.
Yeah. Which means they've been had.
Yeah.
Then the scene changed, and I saw a rotunda of the Capitol, and there was a closed casket in the middle of the rotunda. And the sign on the casket stated that inside was the Democratic candidate for the office of president. And there was a calendar hanging above that casket, and it had the date specifically. Clearly, I saw it. One of the first times I've seen an actual date, not on a calendar, but on the paper. It said December 17th. That date was clearly spelled out.
And he does say that he's not saying that somebody's actually going to die.
Right, he
but-
clarifies that.
Yeah.
But, I think there was I don't know if I put that clip on there or not, of Biden calling it out and saying,
I am the
I am the Democratic Party.
I am the
I've
Democratic
got
Party.
I got all
Yeah.
the videos like
Yeah.
in the order that
Are they
of your
there?
notes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you're gonna
Okay,
give me hell, go
Well, I
ahead.
mean,
Just
I
hit
see
me
them
with
down
it,
here
Jim.
at the very bottom. That's why.
Right.
All of them. So
Yeah.
I didn't put them-
We go through our
That's why-
notes in
that's what I'm
order.
saying. Just if you
Yeah,
can,
he wants to jump around. That's fine. Look, jump around.
I need you to
jump up and get down.
shake your head.
You don't have that. That's a
No,
great
just
place to have
what
that
I'm
music
saying,
queued
you
up.
Go down
I don't know
to
what you're
it
saying
and
if you're
put the
going-
clip
Can
on.
anybody understand the words that are coming out of our mouth?
When I point at you, I want you to click on that video.
I don't
Which-
know what the hell you
which
want me to do.
video?
It
Say,
says
hey, I wanna-
Discovery
when I
right there.
point-
I'm looking at it.
I can't know what you're looking at.
You're
I'm not-
looking at the same one I am.
I'm looking at the screen with the
Oh, man.
videos.
Good
This
Lord.
We
show is
still
gone.
Fortunately, we're brothers.
don't get
Yeah.
any better at this at all.
All right, I mean, hey. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
What do you want me to do?
It says Discovery. Sydney Powell, Discovery, and then it's got Isaac and Isaacs, and it's right there.
Yes, Brandon.
Click on it.
I know that.
It's just at the end of the show.
It doesn't need to be. It needs to be played right now.
I don't know where you want me to put certain things.
It doesn't matter.
Can you tell
click
they're
it right
brothers?
now.
I don't know that.
Just
You
these
have
guys
you
are
have it all
related.
in the numbers, and then you've got Sydney Powell after people laying on the streets looking dead. I'm losing it. What do you want from me?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Click it.
No.
Are we gonna stay on point?
No, we can't stay on point.
Yeah.
Man, I'm glad y'all saw that. That's how it usually is when he and I just like I try to do so well, and it's never good enough.
So December 17th, he references December 17th.
Yeah, I mean, something obviously very, very big happens on that day, whether that be, and he gives a breakdown of how it goes.
Yeah.
So if we're not going to click on Discovery, then just
Death
keep
of
moving
the
along.
death of the Democratic
Oh, hey,
Party.
look, let me see which one's Discovery. Take 14.
Beginning to collect evidence on the financial interests of some of the governors and secretaries of state who actually bought into the Dominion systems, surprisingly enough. Hunter Biden type graft to line their own pockets by getting a voting machine in that would either make sure their election was successful or they got money for their family from it.
That's the
How critical-
backdoor deals and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
for that Dominion.
That is referenced in episode 2 by Dana Coverstone saying, "Hey, I see this going on where these officials are shaking hands or kind of
They're congratulating each other.
correct." And we don't know how much. In her interview with Maria, she makes a reference that the system itself, the Dominion or whatever, is $100 million setup voting system that they were willing to spend on this to get the to get the
results they want.
correct exactly. So that's not the Discovery one, but we'll get to it one day.
Those deadlines and how urgent does that make your investigation and discovery?
There you go.
There you go.
There
I
you
had
go.
to do that one on my own. I actually that's
Good job.
that's not even in your list.
Good job.
Well, I'm looking at it. I don't know why you can't click on it.
Oh,
It's
well,
called
hey,
Isaac and
We've even
Isaac.
got
Here we go.
evidence of some kickbacks, essentially.
Hey,
There we go. We'll do it all.
there you
We're
go.
collecting evidence now from various whistleblowers that are aware of substantial sums of money being given to family members of state officials who bought this software. I mean, we're talking about $100 million packages for new voting machines suddenly in multiple states.
Not
and
multiple, what,
benefits
like
ranging from
12?
financial benefits
Oh, I
for
thought-
How
family
many
members
ended up with the
to
Dominion?
sort of
thought it was
what I would
12.
call election
was
insurance.
29.
I can't
Because
hear
they know
Sydney.
that they can win the election if they are using that software.
I'm sorry. What were y'all saying while y'all were rudely interrupting my favorite lawyer?
How many states
I don't even
use
wanna-
the Dominion?
30.
30.
30.
29 plus Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Man.
But it's primarily the large counties that use them.
Okay.
So,
Well, yeah, if you
That
got to
can
have
afford it, right, I was
$100
gonna say.
million to put that system in.
Yeah. Well, it's probably strategic too. Like, where do we need these to
Yeah.
be put? You know, how are you going to win the first time since '92 if you don't put it in the right counties?
I agree.
is there anything else that I'm doing wrong on this show? Anything else y'all want to point out? Eh? You don't like the cut
You
of
only
my
have
jib?
one brother.
Only cut of my jib? I don't understand how you understand the idea behind going accordingly. Like, these are not
Well,
my
yeah.
notes. These are y'all's notes.
Yeah, and my notes are in line. That's what it's like, man.
Don't back my play, bro. Because there's an old Middle
That is
Eastern
true.
saying
Yeah.
when two brothers are fighting and the cousin
Yeah,
cuts
hey,
in,
that's why I was
we'll
like,
turn
get
on you.
involved.
Hey, y'all are good.
I'll treat you.
I'll still sit here and use my old school notes of like, this is the way we
You
run
can't
the
click
show.
on that though.
I don't need to click on it. I already know what these things say.
I wish I had a very close relative who knew exactly how this thing worked. All right, where the hell are we?
We are at after December 17th on Dana Coverstone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
So
I'm gonna
about
have-
7:50, or no, yeah, about 8:30, somewhere in there.
No, that's not how it works.
Okay.
That's from
Just
the
telling you the
original-
minutes of
that's
where we're
from the-
supposed to be.
That's from the original video.
Oh,
see,
you've
I
cut
go
it.
through the effort of editing this horse crap. Yeah, you see, I'm not. You're
Comes
not.
out so it
Me
comes
and
out
you,
real good.
Yeah, you're
we-
not just like
we don't-
luckily
we don't
finding
edit.
the
I
places
just
that you want to
stick 'em-
talk about.
I just stick videos in there like you do. I'm like,
I do.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't put it in
You
order.
say, no, you don't. But somehow you think.
Oh man.
All right, I don't want to even talk about it anymore. Here we go. I'm going to try to find out where we are.
And it's spelling this word out in the sky
That's Discovery.
of the Capitol, and there was a closed casket in the middle of the rotunda. And the sign on the casket stated that inside was the Democratic candidate for the office of president. And there was a calendar hanging above that casket, and it had the date specifically. Clearly, I saw it. One of the first times I've seen an actual date, not on a calendar, but on the paper. It said December 17th. That date was clearly spelled out.
So, who knows
Also-
what that is?
All their shoes were not on their feet. The shoes were piled, like when you walk in the rotunda area. All the shoes were piled there. So all these congressmen, all these senators were basically barefooted. There was a couple of the females that had socks or stockings on their feet, like almost like a pantyhose type stocking on their feet. Everybody else was totally barefoot. And then a
What did you think
prominent
that was?
senator,
I don't know what that is.
Well, you said
China?
something about you thought China might be involved in it.
I mean, that's a Asian
Take your
culture.
shoes off.
Yeah.
Take your shoes off.
Could be holy ground.
That could be holy ground.
I don't think so.
Could be a Jewish custom, Hebrew custom.
Yeah.
I don't know what that.
Well, piling
is.
up the shoes. It wasn't like everybody just had their shoes off. He said they were
piled
piled up.
Mm-hmm.
What's that like? It gives you a visual of.
I don't know.
I know what it gives me a visual of Nazis, putting the people to the camps where they just piled up these shoes on top of each other.
I was hoping you wouldn't.
I know, but I'm just letting you know, like, man, visually, that's like, man, that's but like we talked about, his reference to Hillary with the swastika
Yeah.
on her blouse, that's what the key was making that
And
that same reference.
They
Like,
were saying
how many
the Russians and the Chinese would take
Correct.
people into concentration camps.
Yeah.
And so how many people in our government really represent that same thing of like, okay, maybe there's a
Well, I think Chuck Schumer said that. Like, he was like, let's get this done, and then we're going to change America.
correct.
Like, he
I mean,
just blatantly
they're
said,
just
we're
said,
just
we're
going to
just
change
gonna
America.
change America. So
I know we had a bit of chaos there for a second, but did we discuss what we thought December 17th meant?
man,
Well, I made the mention when he said, like, when what's his name said that I am the Democratic Party, that very well could be the day that the Democratic Party is done.
Yeah.
Like,
the
it's
way-
just so bad
for
and
what
so
we know the
blatant
Democratic
that-
Party right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it may have been where everybody was involved in this, and they've got a coup that we couldn't even comprehend, and it just gets totally exposed, and like it's like no one, because he says that, I don't know if he said it already, but he's like, you will not see this guy now or ever again.
Yeah,
or
that's
this,
later on in
Is
the
it?
dream. But yeah,
So, I
you're,
mean-
you're right.
So it's like, is that it? Are we done with the Democratic Party
Yeah.
as we know it? So
Yeah,
You never. Yeah, I mean,
I'd
yeah,
rather
you
that
never
than
know.
the
yeah. Then the
to know that somebody's going to die.
Correct,
I mean,
yeah.
It's just like, yeah, but I mean, I look at it because you've got December 8th
I-
is
I-
when the states are supposed to have everything resolved, and then the electors
Correct.
come vote on December 14th.
14th. Yes.
And then you have December 17th, something
Yeah.
takes place. I don't know. And
I think
I was
maybe
running-
maybe that chaos just reaches a peak by that time because
Yeah.
of everything that's happened up to that point.
So, yeah.
I mean, there's always the other one where there's supposed to be an assassination attempt,
Yeah.
and if they're thinking that somehow, some way that's going to be played out to where, you said it's settled by the 14th, and something happens by the 17th, so that she's able to be inaugurated in January, and then all of a sudden you find out, you get all this information showing that this was all orchestrated for her to move in, then all hell breaks loose
Yeah.
when that happens.
And there have been typically when there's an assassination or an assassination attempt on a president, like an actual, like the Reagan and the JFK and the Lincoln, there's like a unification that takes place
True.
immediately after that.
True.
To where you pass certain bills or legislation, same thing, or amendments.
Yeah.
So you had the 13th and 14th Amendment that were passed pretty much was really before he was killed, but it unified the party, and then you started Reconstruction, right? And then you have JFK, he gets killed, Civil Rights Act,
Yeah.
like nobody's going against that,
Yeah.
right? Ronald Reagan, when he gets shot, unifies both parties.
Yeah.
And they start just passing stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. It could be like that assassination attempt, if it's on Trump, may turn the moderate Democrats, because you lost a few Democrats
You did.
in this before this election between 2018 and 2020.
Yeah.
And so it could be like, all right, we're out, you're gone, and the Democrat Party more or less dies its death.
Yeah, could be.
Because that was the final straw.
Maybe so. Yep.
Or maybe if all this comes out,
That's what I was gonna say. I
where
think it would have
the
to come
election,
out.
The election, if this is all fraud and it's trying to, steal the election, if this all comes out, maybe that is the death
Yeah.
of it. So
And one real quick, Chris Reed, he mentions October surprise, and he's mentioned, I think, October surprise, and other people have mentioned October surprise, and people go, I didn't see anything in October. Well, if you look on there, it gives you a good description of what October surprise is, and it was actually the coming together of creating this plan and making sure that everything worked out. So maybe that comes out later on about what took place in October, and that could have been the October surprise. So,
Up and demanded to see the body. And that's when the sergeant at arms rushed up, and he said, with several Marines, by the way, and he said, there will be no viewing of the body today or ever again.
yeah, and at the
this
bottom
time-
there, at the bottom of your sheet, I put a reference to the Marines. The Marines' motto is always faithful. The Marines have lived up to this motto and has proven the fact that there has never been a mutiny or even a thought of one among the U.S. Marines. So I thought it was very unique that he used, or he saw
The Marines.
the actual Marines with the Sergeant of Arms. Sergeant of Arms, I guess, is like the police within the Congress or whatever. And so to have that type of support, you realize that maybe, and I don't know, we've heard up to 500 supposedly retired military people have been supposedly opposing Trump and against Trump and spoken out against Trump or whatever.
Yeah.
And I forget who were we talking to, and was made a reference about a mutiny or whatever, and I think that might be one reason why that's kind of brought up, is that you can kind of count on them, whoever it may be that goes in there.
Yeah.
I saw the man I'd seen in the previous dreams. He was standing in the place where the president gives the State of the Union address. He was standing in the halls of Congress, right there where everybody sees the president give the State of the Union address every single year. And he tapped the microphone. It was one of those real thin, it wasn't a Shure SM58. It was a real thin, very professional microphone that was there. He tapped the microphone 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then he stated in a very loud voice, "A house divided against itself shall not stand." And he emphasized the word shall. He said it like this: "A house divided against itself shall not stand." And the emphasis was on the word shall. And then he pushed the microphone down, just put his hand and pushed the microphone all the way down to the podium. And he walked to the door at the rear of the room. And on that wall, there was a panel of probably 25 or 30 light switches, just your flip switch. And one by one, he flipped them down. One by one. Until every light in Congress, in that building, in that room, went out.
So I mean, even that reference to a house divided against itself, that's a Abraham Lincoln speech, where, you know, during the Civil War type time period where we've been, and then, but that's a direct quote from the scriptures as well. So I mean, all of it kind of ties in together, where you can see that this has all been created to really put us in a atmosphere of war. And we've said it, like, I mean, whether it be psychological warfare, whatever these different type of warfare is taking place.
It's the destabilization of America as we know it. I mean, that's part of that agenda that they've had, because again, we have a constitution. They know they can't do anything about that. What do? I mean, you got to affect the people at that point.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's where we're at, the destabilization of our country. Yeah. We've watched it get to this boiling point over all these years, and it's finally reached its peak. And it's about to come to a head.
Yeah.
I mean, we know it. This is what these dreams are saying. Like, these warnings, and brace yourself, be prepared. Like,
I think that's been the whole point, is to demoralize us and make us feel like you really don't have any control over anything.
Correct.
This country will go the way we want it. You know, the elites say.
Yeah. I mean, they named the voting system Dominion.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you want to get into references and spiritual references that cross over. What was the reference to, you know, Dominion? It was.
I looked it up, and it's a territory or sphere of influence or control a realm.
Yes.
So I mean, you know,
I mean, that just goes over everything.
Yeah.
And that's, so they don't even hide it in these little things that they do.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean,
and the funny thing is the Peter Nefflinger, I think his name, works for Smartmatic. He's like the retired admiral or whatever that's been now placed on Biden's DHS
Yes.
or
the Department of Homeland Security.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he's,
So
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, for you to sit here and say there's no fraud,
Baseless.
it's baseless.
Yeah. Baseless.
Exactly.
Like-
I think it's blatant lying. Like, and I've got friends that they'll tell you to this day, and they want you to just get over it, right, and accept the results. Where we spent 4 years of nobody accepting the results of Trump.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, but
literally 4
the
years.
the danger in them saying that, because if we were on the other side of the ticket and the Republicans were doing all this stuff, I mean, we're American enough to say, man, this should be dealt with.
Yeah.
The fact that you have Americans just saying, I don't care if they
Right.
cheated, you
Yeah.
need to get over it, and this is the danger in that is the next step is globalism and complete control.
Right.
We're done for at that point, because you've basically said we don't care about our Constitution, we don't care about our holding true elections, socialism and the fallout of it. Here we come, and
The idea, like Brennan said, is to undermine.
the
You
undermine.
can undermine the Constitution,
Yeah.
which
You're-
is all that holds this country together.
Correct. That's why I said you have to
Yeah.
destabilize the people, because the Constitution is what holds us together as one.
Yeah.
You destabilize the people and go against that. That's where we're watching this thing play out. That's why I say it comes to that ultimate boiling point where it's just okay. You have to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have the Kraken. Kraken is done. Okay.
Yeah. But no, it's a
heavy-
it's
it's
a
a
heavy, I think that's why we also wanted to go back and look at these dreams again and look at these items instead of going forward in the shows that we wanted to do. We're like, look, we really need to reset, come back to this and stay on point.
Great reset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, come back and stay on point for another probably 4 or 5 weeks because of what we feel is coming down the pipeline.
Well, real quick before we get off, I guess, when I think of Jeremiah Johnson talking about the two ladies coming out and helping Trump, right?
Yeah.
It reminded me of, Moses when they were fighting in the battle. And I forget, it was Aaron and I forget the other guy, her or whatever.
Yeah, raising his
raising his arms and keeping him
Yes.
his arms
That's
up.
a great
because of
visual.
he was losing strength.
Yes.
And if you're going to win this battle, you are going to need people to help lift you up and get you through it.
Yeah,
And so,
I agree.
yeah,
Because when his arms went down,
they
would
losing
start
the battle.
losing. So
Yeah.
they would have to raise his arms
Correct.
and they would start winning. Like that. That's a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
visual.
And it's not just like Trump winning. Like
No.
yeah,
No.
it
This is carrying
we
the
all-
country. It's carrying the
Right,
country
but we
over.
all need to
Yes.
be prepared. We need to get in with friends, family, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like the Bible. Jesus said, if you've got aught against your brother, get it taken care of. Like
Yep.
now
Right.
is
Now is the
couldn't be a
time.
better time because
agree.
with what's going to happen.
I'm sorry. We're all good.
They're gonna make up.
Well, I don't
Brothers
know
till
about
the
makeup.
end.
Yeah. I heard him.
Had all against my brother there for about 10 minutes. Okay.
And so it's like you need to be able to get ready to have somebody there to lift you up.
Yeah,
I agree.
you're absolutely right. Don't
Yeah.
walk alone.
Yeah.
yeah,
No, now's the
never walk
time.
alone.
Now's the time not to be out there alone.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and
Well,
so-
very good, man. That was,
Man, that was a good
stuff.
show. Yeah.
Well, we haven't, like I said, we haven't backed off on what we believe is going to happen.
No, and I
we-
think we've been more emboldened right now. To be
Really?
honest with you, we ain't apologizing for anything,
Yeah.
and we're not backing down. Like
I
this
do
is where
want
we
to end
stand.
with our old friend Justin here.
Oh, Trudeau.
Canada believes that a strong, coordinated response
handsome.
across the world and across sectors is essential. This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for
Ba-boom.
Sustainable Development and the SDGs.
What a
They
jerk.
they don't hide it.
It's too
It's-
late.
it-
They must
it's
be
like-
out of time.
like,
That's the only thing
exactly,
I
like,
can think of.
we're
They're like,
like,
we
what-
can't fool these people anymore. We're just
Well, like I
gonna go
told
and
you
shove
guys,
it down
Great
their
reset.
throat.
2030 agenda.
Before the show, I said, hey, we're going to take the opportunity that COVID has given us.
Right.
Right.
That's this opportunity. They know this is the golden ticket
Yeah.
to world domination.
Yeah. Any if we got over 20 cases, we're going to shut it all down.
Yes.
Like the whole.
Oh yeah.
The
Shut
guy's freaking reading off a script,
Oh,
man. It's
yeah.
like
it's the same script
Correct.
that everybody at the WEF was reading off of. I mean, it's
Boris
it's
Johnson's
scripted.
jumped on.
Oh,
board
he's jumped
too,
on
man.
board
That's
hard. That's what I
no
told you
good.
guys. Like Boris just went right
He
over the
might
edge.
be. He
I
might
think
be.
he's
I think he may have to step down.
Yeah.
he may have to step down, but it's like something's happened.
Yes.
he must have gotten
got to.
compromised.
Yeah,
Some-
exactly.
Something.
And we all know that's what happens.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So, oh, great
And
show,
it's,
guys.
It's funny,
That was
like
a great
Twitter was
show.
going nuts
Yeah.
on the Great Reset.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
were like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Yeah.
people were." and I was
Finally,
like,
well, yeah, finally,
you know,
you wake up.
Somebody tweeted out. I think it was like Ben Shapiro was like, "LOL," Twitter's trending Great Reset, and they're like, "Why are you LOLing that?" And I was like, "Because all these people are just now
Just
figuring
now
it out."
figuring it
Yeah.
out. Yep.
Yeah.
Like late to the party.
That's why I say, yeah, the Agenda 2030. I'm like, yeah, we had Agenda 2021, Agenda 2030,
2025,
and
yeah.
an Agenda 2050.
Yeah.
It's all coming, folks. It's their plan.
Release.
Oh, good
The
show,
Kraken.
guys.
Release the Kraken.
Yes. God bless everybody.